don't see a wall between the different approach for an interpretation or for a cultural, technical thing that you see in other places. We enrich each other's with that things, with that difference. You take from this, we take from this, you give, and that is great. But I believe everybody connect through our differences. This is a beautiful question because it's what I have been living. I try to make, these programs where we unite orchestras from different places and people, and then through the difference we create something amazing. And I think this is a good way to connect, but I don't see a radical difference, of course, in the soul, in the approach, in the way how we do, in the way others do. Yes, of course, but music is one, so.
But I think it's one of the things that people always talk about is your charisma and your intensity on the podium. There was one reviewer called you the happiest conductor in America.
I'm very happy. I see the positive things, even inside of the bad things. And that is my personality. That is something natural. I feel privileged of what I do.
This is CBC Winnipeg. Here are the lineup tones in advance of the CBC Winnipeg weekday morning show. This is CBC Winnipeg. Here are the lineup tones in advance of the CBC Winnipeg weekday morning show.
This amount of people, I think young people are hungry of culture and how we give that to them. That intensity of connection that these people have, as you said, jumping from Beethoven Fifth to LL Cool J, to Cynthia Erivo, to Dave Grohl, to all of these amazing people, Leve. You think maybe this is something crazy, but it was the most natural thing. We were jumping from Bach to Vivaldi, Stravinsky, to all of these music styles, and it feels like a beautiful embrace of beauty that we all need.
And your life is going to transform next year because you're going to take over as the musical director of the New York Philharmonic, and you'll become the first Latin American conductor to lead that orchestra. Is that something that feels significant to you?
Well, absolutely. It's a huge honor and a privilege, to embark in this new journey with the New York Philharmonic. For me, it's a huge honor to be in an institution that, have been part of the culture of the world,
Do you like New York?
I like New York, of course. In 1995, I was 13 years old, and I remember in Washington, and we play in New York in the cafeteria of the UN with the Children Orchestra. Last year, the Children Orchestra played at Carnegie Hall. Imagine, this is the odyssey, the journey, of these 50 years. So it's a city that fascinates me, yes.
And that brings us to today. You're here in London to play 10 concerts at Wembley Stadium with Coldplay. How did that come about?
This is a dream come true, I have the privilege and the honor to have one friendship that I learned a lot, that I connect, that is pure love and respect with Chris Martin from Coldplay. We met years ago, and it's beautiful because that connection became from this orchestra, from the Simon Bolivar Orchestra, when we did the Mambo of West Side Story at the Proms. I think it was 2007 when we were here the first time. And we did that concert and we played, and then he was very amazed about what we were doing. He's very into this social action through music. When he does music, his will is to help, to heal, and to transform. And that connects with our ideals, with our values. So we became very good friends since years ago, and he invited the YOLA, which is the Youth Orchestra of Los Angeles, the program that we created in spite of El Sistema in Los Angeles, to the Super Bowl when Coldplay participated. And we were part, and it was a beautiful moment. He wanted to give this beautiful space for these young people to be on the stage with them. And talking about all of this, you know, they are closing this tour. It has been such a beautiful, historical tour of Coldplay. It's the 50th anniversary of El Sistema, I think. Chris wanted to give something to the orchestra. I think it's a gift, a very generous gift of having all of us together, celebrating with them the power of music, and for us to be celebrating all of these 50 years to embrace by Coldplay, embraced by him. It makes us believe in what we do. And we are here just now rehearsing, preparing for these amazing performances that we are really looking forward. This is something that for me is very special, because I imagine my maestro, José Antonio Abreu, 50 years ago with nothing, and arriving here, being embraced, but all of these great artists supporting and embracing this program, because it's not only the people that will play in Wembley. This is the symbol of thousands and millions young people in my country and around the world dreaming to build their dreams through music. So this is a symbol of hope and optimism.
And over those 10 nights, you'll play to almost 1 million people.
Yeah.
What do you hope the audience will walk away from those shows feeling?
It's not naive to think what we need is more empathy. It's more to look to each other and understand each other. Although we have differences, we believe in different things, and that we can, in a moment at least, be united by the most powerful and beautiful expression of human being. That, for me, is music.
Thank you for listening to the interview from the BBC World Service. You'll find more in-depth conversations on the interview wherever you get your BBC podcasts, including episodes with the US President Donald Trump, the Colombian artist Doris Salcedo, and Irish historian Catherine Corliss. Until next time, bye for now.
From the BBC, that was The Interview. I'm Saroja Coelho. CBC News is next.
Good morning, Manitoba, and hello, Winnipeg. I'm Marcy Marcusa. This is Information Radio, and you're listening to the show on your Friday morning, heading into the long weekend. Thanks for joining us. You're on CBC, 89.3 FM, 990 AM on that app, and on YouTube. Hot and sunny again today, the last couple of days, right? We've had a very similar forecast. Today, we have a high of 29. With Humidex, it's going to feel like 33 in the city of Winnipeg. Over in Brandon, mix of sun and cloud, a high of 30. With Humidex, 35 today. So that can be in that dangerous level, or also in that great level if you're at the beach. And in Thompson, mix of sun and cloud, and also a high of 30 with a Humidex of 35. So that's some concerning heat for that part of the province. But that's what we've got at the end of August. We're on air with you until 8:37 a.m. And let's say good morning to the team. Good morning to May McKillop, who's directing today. Hi, May. Good morning to Abby Adeyemi, our senior tech, who's covering weather and traffic on air with us today. And good morning to Azika Abdelatif, who is saying hello on YouTube. Azika is our YouTube producer of our show. You can watch it there and say hello. All right, let's say hello to Heather Welsh. She's here with news updates and your morning headlines at 2 minutes to 6. Hi, Heather.
Hi there. Good morning. Well, a Winnipeg lawyer says police were smart to obtain a warrant to search inside an encampment. Officers used that warrant to search a temporary shelter in an encampment near Waterfront Drive. On Wednesday, they seized bicycles and bike parts from what police describe as a chop shop. 2 men are charged. Chris Gamby at the Criminal Defence Lawyers Association of Manitoba says obtaining that search warrant may help those charges stick in court. Manitoba's Minister of Municipal Affairs says the province is reviewing a new report by the Auditor General. The report says the government needs to keep a more watchful eye on rural municipalities. Among other things, it recommends all RMs implement cybersecurity protocols. I'll be back with more Manitoba news at 6:30.
All right. Thanks very much, Heather.
Thank you.
Well, let's have a look at what's coming up on the program today. Yesterday, we at CBC here are just downtown by University of Winnipeg, as you likely know, if you've seen our building. And we can't help but get excited when school gets back in because the first students we see are next door at the University of Winnipeg. And we went over there yesterday to talk to them about Orientation Day. So we're going to hear more about what students' hopes are for the year. Also, when reporters can't go in, how do they tell the story? CBC's Sasha Petrusik this morning has a detailed report about a collaborative effort about Gaza.
On cue.
I'm Talia Schlanger in for Tom Power. The Beaches had a massive hit a couple years ago with their song Blame Brett. They'll tell you about the pressures of following up huge success and how on their new album they're embracing their messy side.
Q this morning at 10:30 in Newfoundland, and on the CBC Listen app or wherever you get your podcasts.
This is World Report. Good morning, I'm Catherine Cullen. European defense ministers are gathering in Denmark to discuss support for Ukraine. Their meeting comes after a major Russian attack on Kyiv yesterday. The barrage of drones and missiles killed at least 23 people, with more still unaccounted for. Julia Chapman reports.
Emergency responders in Kyiv continue to search the rubble for survivors. The city was hit by one of its worst attacks of the war, triggering outrage across Europe. Kaja Kallas is the European Union's foreign affairs representative.
These attacks show that Putin is just mocking any kind of peace efforts that are made.
Russia says it was targeting military sites, but a residential building bore the brunt of the attack. EU officials are working to put more pressure on Moscow. That could include placing secondary sanctions on Russia's trading partners. Radek Sikorski is Poland's foreign minister.
An invader only stops fighting when he thinks he cannot win. And Putin still thinks he can win.
But Europe can't end the war alone. Donald Trump has favoured dialogue over weaponry, so far without any impact on the ground.
He was not happy about this news, but he was also not surprised.
That was Trump's spokesperson, Caroline Leavitt. The White House has now announced an $825 million sale of arms, including missiles that can reach a distance of 450 kilometers. It's thought to be the first offer of new weapons to Ukraine under Donald Trump's administration. Ukrainian officials are in New York today for talks with Trump's team about possible security guarantees. Julia Chapman, CBC News, London.
Israel's military says Gaza City is now a dangerous combat zone. From across the border in southern Israel, you can hear the blasts and see the smoke rising over Gaza. The IDF says it is now operating with great force in the outskirts of Gaza City, and the tactical pause that allowed some food into the famine-hit city is now over. A statement from the Israeli Prime Minister's office says the bodies of 2 hostages have been recovered. One has been identified as the body of Elon Weiss from kibbutz Be'eri. The other has not been publicly identified. Thailand's constitutional court has removed the country's prime minister and dissolved her cabinet. The head of the court reads the decision in Bangkok. It ruled Paesosung Shinawat violated constitutional rules on ethics in a phone call with the head of Cambodia's Senate. The conversation was about easing border tensions, but when it was leaked in June, it revealed Shinawat discussed national security too freely and appeared critical of a Thai general. The 39-year-old Shinawat held the job for only a year. Politicians in Texas are trying to block the distribution of mail-order abortion medications. The House passed a bill yesterday that allows individuals to sue anyone who makes, sends, or transports the pills. Critics say it could limit abortion medication, even in states where abortion remains legal. Let's bring in the CBC's Lisa Shing from Washington. Lisa, what are lawmakers saying about this bill?
Well, Catherine, since Texas nearly completely banned abortions a few years ago, there appears to be an increase in abortions through the pill, which can be prescribed and mailed from states where abortion is legal, like in California and New York. And so this Texas bill is in response to that. So now the legislation allows ordinary people, really from anywhere, to sue companies that make the pill or people who send or prescribe it from elsewhere into the state and collect a minimum of $100,000 in damages. But to deter so-called bounty hunters, the final version of the bill says any plaintiff who doesn't have a connection to the case would only be able to keep $10,000 of that, with the rest going to charity. Here's what Republican Texas State Representative Nate Schatzline posted on social media.
If we cannot protect the unborn and our ladies in the state of Texas, what can we do?
There are also vocal opponents in the House, including Democrat Donna Howard.
Let me be clear. The only reason we have not seen a return to the days of coat hanger abortions is because of the medication abortion pill.
Now, this law is going to go to the Senate next week, where it's expected to pass.
And Lisa, what does this mean for broader abortion access in the United States?
Yeah, those opposed to the bill say this pill can generally become less available everywhere, even in states where abortion is legal, because presumably manufacturers and delivery companies like FedEx would want to avoid being sued. And keep in mind, some lawmakers in the House yesterday said and clarified an abortion doesn't have to occur for there to be enforcement of this law.
Okay, the CBC's Lisa Sheng in Washington. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Calgary police say a man wanted on a Canada-wide warrant is dead. Police are not naming the now deceased suspect, and they're not revealing what the charges against him were. But they say he fired shots at a home in northwest Calgary yesterday. When officers tried to arrest him, he entered another house. The man also allegedly opened fire on a tactical police unit in armored vehicles. Hours later, police confirmed the man was dead. No other injuries were reported. Alberta's Special Incident Response Team is now investigating. Canadian businesses are facing another hit from U.S. tariffs. The Trump administration is terminating the de minimis exemption. It allows packages worth up to $800 to enter the U.S. duty-free. That ends today. As Paula Duhachek reports, Canadian companies are figuring out how to adjust to the change.
Taking a market where you are growing and turning it off is not my favorite thing to do in the world.
Christy Sumer is founder and CEO of the Toronto-based clothing company Encircled. She says U.S. customers represent about 35% of her revenue, but as of this week, she's cut off shipping to the U.S. altogether.
Since there is just a lot of uncertainty around what that is even going to look like, how it's going to be processed, and how much it's even going to cost.
For us, we've made the decision to eat the cost, which is, it's big, it's huge.
Jen Harper, founder and CEO of the makeup brand Cheekbone Beauty, is taking a different approach.
We're doing this on a temporary basis to see how much it actually is going to impact our bottom line.
It hits mom and pop shops disproportionately.
John Boscariel is a trade lawyer with the firm McCarthy Tatro.
And many of them who have relied on these low-value shipments to the United States as part of their bread and butter for survival are being hit by this and possibly may have to go out of business because of this.
Boscariel says he'll be watching to see if de minimis comes up during trade negotiations between the two countries. As for Christy Sumer with Encircled,
we're kind of scrambling, I would say, a little bit just to figure out what to do.
She's trying to figure out how to reopen shipping to U.S. customers. In the meantime, she hopes Canadian shoppers will make an effort to support local fashion this fall. Paula Duhachek, CBC News, Toronto.
After several delays, it looks like this is the day for Canada's first commercial space launch. Nordspace hopes to launch its single-engine rocket this morning from a spaceport in St. Lawrence, Newfoundland. If the company succeeds, it will be a big achievement for the space industry in Canada. But as Peter Cowan reports, it has also been a huge source of pride for the local community.
It's 6 meters of shining metal and 3D printed ingenuity. More than 100 people have come out to a concrete pad on a windswept peninsula in Newfoundland to see the Tiger rocket.
Quite cool, actually. I've always been, fascinated with space and rockets.
Derek Bringston lives nearby and wanted to come see it up close.
It's just a cool experience to be here today.
The company behind the launch is Nord Space. Its goal is to be the first Canadian company to design, build, and launch a rocket here in Canada. Right now, Canada is dependent on other countries to launch satellites into space. Rahul Goyal is trying to change that.
We're sending countless engineers. We're sending billions of dollars of taxpayer dollars south of the border over the next many, many years to launch things like internet communication constellations and more. And being able to reshore all of that is extremely important.
Nord Space looked at 20 sites across Canada, but St. Lawrence was chosen because they can launch out over the ocean and reach many different orbits. It's a town known for fishing and mining. It has an aging population. Young people move away. So Mayor Kevin Pittman hopes a spaceport turns things around.
And this is going to be one of the projects that helps keep them home and build our community and grow it again.
This rocket won't reach space. It'll go just a few kilometers into the air. But it could launch a whole new commercial space capability in Canada. Peter Cowan, CBC News, St. Lawrence, Newfoundland.
That is the latest national and international news from World Report. I'm Catherine Cullen, and this is CBC News.
We're getting near the end of August now, folks. Welcome to the Friday before Labor Day long weekend. I'm Marcy Marcusa. Thanks for joining us on CBC this morning. 89.3 FM, 990 AM on the app and YouTube. This is Information Radio in downtown Winnipeg right now, 17 degrees. We'll update what's going to be another very hot day coming up. Well, yesterday was a pretty nice day for students next door at the University of Winnipeg, and they were all there getting ready for university. Remember Orientation Day? We caught some of the excitement on mic and also some of the nerves. Stay tuned. We'll hear from some of those local students. Also this hour on the show, Saskatchewan's Premier Scott Moe says Canada should drop its 100% tariff on Chinese electric cars to help canola farmers. Obviously something playing and weighing heavily on farmers here in Manitoba. We'll explore what that could mean for the auto industry and how politics in the canola sector shape the debate. Stay tuned. Right now, let's go to what's happening in local news otherwise with more headlines from Heather Wells. Good morning.
Good morning. Well, the owner of a Charleswood home, once the site of a popular Christmas display, has started clearing trees from that property. Paul Taylor plans to demolish the house after repeated break-ins, vandalism, and thefts. Some neighbors, though, were shocked to see hundreds of trees cleared from that Robin Boulevard property. We'll hear more. And Manitoba's Minister of Municipal Affairs says the province is reviewing a new report by the Auditor General. That report says the government needs to keep a more watchful eye on rural municipalities. Among other things, it recommends all RMs implement cybersecurity protocols. Our next local news coming up at 6:30.
So, Heather, a question for you before we turn to weather and traffic with Abby. I mentioned Orientation Day. We're going to hear from the students at U of W in a moment. You had 4 kids, many of them in post-secondary. Do you remember those days and nerves? You get different questions back, I guess, from your kids when they're in that level of education, I suspect.
Yeah. You know what? Yeah, there was for sure some excitement, though. Nerves, but excitement. And when they move, like my daughter actually went to university in Montreal and then in London, Ontario. And when they move, I mean, there's even more added to that because it's not only getting all the books you need and wondering what the future holds, but also like trying to reestablish yourself in a brand new place.
Absolutely. I remember calling my mom. I didn't go away for school, but the first time I went away to move for my first job, most of the calls were about cooking, to be honest with you.
That's important.
Yeah. I grew up in a house with a Ukrainian mama that cooked everything. Frankly, still does. I'm like 51 years old and people think I know how to make all these Ukrainian foods. And I'm like, no, my mom is still making these things. So
I was the same way. Yeah, you get like, oh, these are great pad of hat. Oh,
I know.
No, I didn't make it.
I'm going to go to a listener line here. Thank you, Heather.
Thank you.
Because before we go to weather traffic, and that is because in advance of our first item, I just want to ask you, if you're listening this morning and you're thinking about not just today, but next week, back to school coming up. Maybe you were at orientation already this week, or maybe you went back to Red River Polytech at the beginning of the week. What's it like, the prep? You know, what are you feeling on these first days back at school, no matter what level or grade you're going back to? So let us know what your greatest hopes and fears are around the the prep and what you're feeling for back to school time. We'll take calls. It'd be nice to get them on this Friday morning. 788-3205, just in case you're up early and thinking. We'll mention it again later. All right, Abby Adiyemi, what's up?
My time going into the university, I was really, on that first day, I was looking out for the senior students that I was like looking up to, that were already in the arts, and you could see them do TV shows and everything. And I was like, I hope I get to see this person on campus. But no, I did not, because we're so busy looking for our classroom.
What did you take? Where were you at university?
University of Lagos.
Yep.
I was like doing theater arts.
You were already doing that. See, when I went to U of M, I went for sciences because I thought I was going to be a lab tech because I really loved the sciences in high school. So that was what I started in. And I remember going, my biggest concern over at U of M was, this is not studies, but this is like parking. And I was so worried about being late. U-Lot, which I think is still called U-Lot, was like way in the back. So you had this big walk to get to your class. And I remember I was carpooling and I was like, I'm going to be late for my very first class at university. It was so stressful. All right. We mentioned that people going anywhere today are going to have a really hot day ahead.
Yeah, sunshine and warmth expected today. We're going to see temperatures across the southern regions already like in the low mid-teens this morning, with light breeze expected to come this morning. Conditions in Winnipeg, we're looking at 17 degrees. It's clear outside, a mild and pleasant start to the day. As we move through the morning, sunshine will dominate the southern part of the province, and even here in Winnipeg, it's going to be a beautiful day. But the afternoon, that's where we have the concern. The sunshine will bring temperatures climbing to around 29 degrees in Winnipeg, the actual temperatures, and we'll see the humidity around 33 to 35 in some areas. So it will be warm. At some point, it will get uncomfortable, but then that light breeze would make it a bit comfortable, but because it's going to be very gentle from the southwest, keeping things pleasant through the day. And as we head into the evening, partly cloudy conditions, and then we'll see some clear skies overnight. We still spot fog in Flin Flon Church surrounding areas, so take that into consideration. But for today, it's going to be a lovely, sunny, warm weather that will stick around. It's more like a very wonderful start to the Labor Day long weekend. Yeah. If you see anything in traffic, we already have something already in traffic. Westbound Portage is down to one lane at Empress Underpass. Expect delays there. And of course, the regular spots in town, Debanoji construction is still there, heading towards the university. Take your time as you approach those exits. If you see anything, 788-3093.
And now let's take you over to Orientation Day. Happened yesterday at the University of Winnipeg, next door to the CBC here. Students were getting familiar with the campus. They had tours. There were also some fun things, some scavenger hunts. They also made some new friends, all in the hopes of banishing those first day jitters. CBC's Jim Agapito was there.
This is Orientation Day. Tell me, how's it going so far?
Jenny Lynn DeZoba. It's really good. I'm learning the campus, and I'm already meeting new people, which is great. I'm so excited to start the year.
Olivia Nato. It's going pretty okay. I mean, I'm a big fan that they brought pizza for us. That's pretty cool.
Addison Parsons. It's going really well. I'm getting lots of information, but it starts out very stressful. But I know that it's just easing me into the whole experience of being in university.
We're doing a scavenger hunt. We got to go all across the campus, find certain things. We are in random groups, so we're meeting new people, and yeah, it's really fun.
How's that been going so far?
It's good. It's a little stressful trying to find our way around, but I guess that's the point. It's learning your way. So
I'm kind of lost, to be honest, because I'm kind of just following the group. Everyone else is reading instructions. I'm just kind of here for the ride.
Okay, what's that transition feeling like so far? Because I mean, it's a big leap to go, from high school to university. So what are your feelings right now?
I feel like a grown-up. I feel like I'm really excited to start this journey, and I'm really excited to see where it takes me.
Okay. They're trying to tell us that it's going to be like a great experience, one that you'll remember for years, and yeah.
Do you agree with that so far?
Yeah, I agree with that so far.
And have you met new friends so far?
I have met some friends from high school, and I have met some other people which I'm looking forward to talking to.
Being a little bit social doesn't hurt sometimes.
And have you met any new people so far?
No, I haven't.
So that's kind of the fun thing, right? Like orientation's there to be an icebreaker. Are you excited about meeting more people and whatnot?
Yeah, somewhat. Honestly, I enjoy meeting friends with new interests, similar interests. You find new interests through that as well, so that's my favorite thing about it.
Okay, have you met any new friends yet?
Yes, I met this guy named Andrew, and he was very nice.
Okay, any advice you'd give for any of the people out there who are also doing orientation right now? What would you give them?
Try to take notes, focus on as much as you can, but it's a lot of information, so don't overwhelm yourself.
I'd say maybe ask questions, because that helps a lot. Well, I'd say take some notes, I pulled out my phone a couple times. I have some notes, locations of student resources.
Just try to know that this is going to be a big experience, but and it's going to be stressful. But just know that there are a bunch of helpful people out there, and just know that there's a really great support system, and it's going to be a fun time. It may look stressful at first, but you'll soon get the hang of it in no time.
Students yesterday speaking to CBC's Jim Agapito. He was over at the University of Winnipeg. They were having their orientation day. So you heard there from Jenny Lindazoba, Olivia Nada, as well as Addison Parsons in conversation with us. Orientation day for new students, which is obviously the signal that next week classes are going to start all over the place. Red River, you're already back. Next week we're going to start to see the first day of school all across Manitoba. If you want to weigh in on, what you remember about that first day, I'm going to widen it out and say at any grade, but certainly you could, build on what we heard from the university students. What do you remember about it? And also, how are you planning for this year? 788-3205. Let's switch gears. There's a new Winnipeg band named Tarp. They released their debut EP. It's called Automatic Solar Light. It's a collection of experimental songs. You can kind of hear that in this. It's paired with home video style music videos. This is from that new EP. Have a listen. This is Winnipeg's Tarp and Mediate.
I don't meditate. I play dead. I don't meditate. I sleep in. I don't meditate. I smoke instead. I don't meditate. I play dead. And one day there will be no more me. When that sleeping dog wakes up, no more tree.
Winnipeg band Tarp and their song Meditate. Did you catch what I did on the end of that? I called it Mediate. Maybe they mediate too. Meditate's the name of the tune, folks. It's from their upcoming new EP. It's called Automatic Solar Light. The album release is actually tonight. If you want to head out and support local, it's happening at the Handsome Daughter. 6:23 a.m. is the time right now. What a beautiful sky we've got out there. I was just noticing Azika putting up the shots on YouTube. It's almost like a sandwich of brightness. So you got the cloud cover coming down, the sun's coming up, and then you've got this layer of just gorgeous shining light in our prairie sky. You really cannot beat the prairies. One of the other things that I love is passing by all those gorgeous yellow canola fields. But a lot of those producers are very concerned, and some of them in trouble. And this is all because of what we're going to talk about next on the show. Canada's 100% tariff on Chinese electric cars is at the center of a growing debate right now in Canada. We've heard about this in Manitoba, but right now in Saskatchewan, the premier there, Scott Moe, says now that China is sitting back hitting back, with tariffs against Canadian canola, it is time to rethink that strategy. But some auto experts warn that Canada needs to protect its growing EV auto industry. So where do we go from here? Lorraine Sommerfeld is with us. She's an auto journalist with the National Post Driving.ca. She is in Burlington, Ontario. Good morning.
Good morning.
So as you know, Premier Scott Moe says Canada should drop this 100% tariff on Chinese electric cars in the face of what, the hit back that the canola farmers are taking because of it. What would it actually mean, though, for Canada's auto industry if that happened?
I think that this was probably going to start happening anyway at some point. We put that tariff on in conjunction with Biden back in 24. As we know, so much has changed to the south of us. So I understand Moe is protecting a very important agricultural business in Canada. I think what we have to understand, though, is the Canadian auto industry, as it sits right now, is contracting. It's been in decline for 25 years. Not going to argue with that. Nobody is. However, going forward, we are changing. The battery plants start going in a couple of weeks with Volkswagen. So even though we traditionally think GM and Ford, that's not the future of Canadian auto industry. I'll probably get smacked somewhere for saying that. But we also have to balance off what Carney's looking at, which is canola, which is incredibly vital. It throws off about $14 billion a year in export, 14.2, I believe. The auto industry exports $100 billion a year, even at this point, without the changes. Having said that, Chinese vehicles, the only place they're being kept out of is basically Canada and the US. We're going to get left behind. So what I think is there is room for creative adjustments within this. I'm kind of with Moe, that 100% tariff, it was artificial. I don't think it's going to hold. I really don't. We can't hold back Chinese cars, which their EVs are better and they're cheaper. And Canadians need cheaper cars, and we also need EVs.
What does creative adjustments mean?
100% tariff gives you a lot of room to work in there. And I think the Chinese are very astute, pitting the prairies against Ontario. It's going to be the worst family dinners in some households, I can just imagine. We know we're in for pain. Every Canadian, we're in for pain in the coming months. No one's going to not be experiencing some bad things because the world is reorganizing itself around, Trump's tariffs. So it's how we alleviate the pain. The headlines are canola or cars. I refuse to believe that. We do not have to lose two of our powerhouse industries because we can't find a solution in the middle.
When you think about our industry needing to develop, here and grow here, the auto industry, can we do that on our own with keeping a Chinese EV out? Or why is it necessary to let them back in from that front? Why will that help us technically? Or is this about having those cars available to Canadians because they're so far ahead of us that that's how they're going to get into the market?
What they're doing, what we need to be doing, is having limited Chinese investment. How about assembling Chinese cars here? We're building, Volkswagen breaks ground in 2 weeks on a huge battery plant here in St. Thomas. Honda's delayed a little bit, but our way going forward is in battery production. We've got the resources, we've got the skill set, we've got the deals in place with billions of dollars of support from federal and provincial governments. So when we traditionally think about our auto industry, we think about GM in Oshawa and Ford in Oakville. Well, nothing's been going on in Oakville for a couple of years, and GM is winding down because they're also repatriating to the US because Trump wants them to. So where's the future? I don't want to stare in the rearview mirror all the time and go, what happened to you, GM and Ford? Going forward, the new world order is EV. China is making spectacular EVs. I think Canada has to navigate a safe, great way to have them invest here as well as sell here. It's going to happen. Let's try and do it on our own terms, and it doesn't mean that we throw canola under the bus in order to do that.
Could lifting the tariff, I just want to lean into something that we were, you've already alluded to this and so have I, but could it actually make EVs more affordable for Canadians? Like, will we actually see that in your view if the tariff's lifted?
Oh, hell yes. Absolutely. Right now, the cost of EVs built, China has all the resources. They also have no human rights. I recognize the problems but they've got oversupply. They did it on purpose. A lot of Chinese auto companies have fallen out because the competition is fierce. But what they've come up with is really, really reliable, cutting edge, dependable, great EVs that we're 10 years behind. Oh, I'm going to get in trouble for saying that. We're behind in our development of this. They pushed ahead on purpose. the rest of the world is just welcoming them. They're running all over Australia and the Azores and Champs-Élysées and Frankfurt and Mexico. We're the only ones. And when you draw a protective curtain around a product, you usually snuff it out. If we can't compete on a global level, then we can't compete at all.
I still don't know where the middle ground is, though, because at the end of the day, you're going to lift the tariff or you're not. Are you suggesting there could be a lower, the lower tariff or?
Yeah, 100% gives you a lot of room to work. And like I said, everyone's going to feel pain. Canola, you're going to feel pain. Car industry, we're already feeling the pain. The steel industry, obviously, is feeling the pain already. So there's going to be pain for everybody. It's like a mediating session where everyone comes out and says, I lost. It's like, well, then it worked. But 100% tariffs, it was a number thrown up by Biden, I thought almost in a panic, and we joined in solidarity, which was good at the time. But the U.S. is no longer a reliable partner. We also, Mo was smart enough to know we can't risk, aggravating the U.S. by not being in lockstep with them. But I think we are going another way. Canada is finding its independence, and 100% gives us room to work. It's something that we can work with, especially considering the disparity between the costs of, American-built EVs and Chinese ones.
Thanks for your perspective, Lorraine. Really appreciate you being on CBC with us.
Thank you.
That's Lorraine Sommerfeld, an auto journalist with the National Post Driving.ca. We reached her in Burlington, Ontario. We do have one small traffic note to pass along. Westbound Portage down to one lane at Empress at the underpass. Expect delays there. 788-3093 if you do need to reach us. Still ahead, we will have Hallie Cottenham, who's in for now a stretch of time, filling in for Crystalie Ramlichan for a longer stretch. So she's going to have business news. We're going to talk about Canada's trade deficit with other countries, speaking of which, and how it exploded in the second quarter. Right now, though, your CBC Winnipeg News.
This is CBC News. Good morning. I'm Heather Wells in Winnipeg. At 6:30, you'll need your sunglasses this morning. It's going to be a bright start to the last Friday of August. Also hot today, a high of 29 with a mix of sun and clouds this afternoon. The humidex today at 33. Hundreds of trees are coming down at a property on the edge of Assiniboine Park. Years ago, it was the site of an elaborate model train and Christmas lights display. But the son of its former owner says the heavily wooded property has become a target for looters and squatters. CBC's Cameron McLean has the story.
Paul Taylor's childhood home used to attract people to see his dad's Christmas lights.
Yeah, this is the train station.
Children rode a train through the property on Roblin Boulevard, but 2 years ago, Taylor returned from a trip to find squatters.
So they flooded the house, and if you crouch down, you can see all the walls are just black mold. They are black mold, so freaky graffiti everywhere.
The thieves and squatters kept coming back. With the house set far back from the road and obstructed by trees, it's hard to monitor. He decided to demolish the house and clear the trees.
If you enable them by providing a venue like this, you're just part of the problem.
The sight of hundreds of broken trees came as a shock to Brian Patterson, who has lived next door for 67 years.
I knew something was happening, but I just didn't realize the scope of, I hesitate to say destruction, but it's what it is.
The city ordered tree clearing to stop on Wednesday because Taylor didn't get a permit. He's now applied for one and expects clearing to continue. Cameron McLean, CBC News, Winnipeg.
A Winnipeg criminal lawyer says police were smart to obtain a warrant to search inside an encampment this week. Officers used that warrant to search a temporary shelter in the camp near Waterfront Drive. They seized bicycles and bike parts from what police describe as a chop shop. 2 men are now charged. Chris Gamby at the Criminal Defense Lawyers Association of Manitoba says that warrant will likely help those charges stick in court.
In going ahead and getting a warrant, they're kind of really limiting the possibility that defense are going to be challenging the lawfulness of the search, right? It's a different ballgame when there's a warrant that's been signed off on.
Winnipeg police say they did not search anywhere else in the camp and no one was evicted. Gamby says that shows respect for the dignity and privacy of people who live in encampments. Manitoba's Minister of Municipal Affairs says the province is reviewing a new report by the Auditor General. The report says the government needs to keep a more watchful eye on rural municipalities. Glenn Simard says his department will review the report and see what safeguards can be put in place.
We also recognize that local governments, like municipalities, are mature local governments, and they're responsible for managing their decision-making and That includes financial management.
The Auditor General's report looked into a number of issues, including a cyber attack on the RM of Westlake Gladstone, leading to cash withdrawals of nearly $500,000. The report recommends all RMs implement cyber security protocols. It also looks at allegations of RMs involving purchases and says the province doesn't have enough oversight over how municipalities use grants. Israeli officials say the remains of 2 hostages have been recovered in Gaza. One has been identified as the body of Ilan Weiss from Kibbutz Be'eri. The other has not yet been publicly identified. Meanwhile, the Israeli military is now referring to Gaza City as, quote, a dangerous combat zone. From outside Gaza City, the sound of bomb blasts and gunfire. The IDF says it is now operating with great force on the outskirts of the city, and the tactical pause that was allowing for the delivery of some food supplies, it says, is now over. Well, the day after Kyiv was hit by a devastating Russian missile and drone bombardment, the EU defense ministers are meeting in Denmark for talks on the Ukrainian war effort. Yesterday's barrage was by far the biggest of the summer, claiming at least 23 lives in Ukraine's capital. You can hear the latest national and international news coming up on World Report at 7. 100 years is quite a milestone. It is one Providence University College marks next weekend. The private Christian post-secondary institution began as the Winnipeg Bible Training School in 1925. A 3-day homecoming celebration is set to begin September 5th. Provost Nicholas Greco says they wanted to go big with a concert featuring Grammy Award winner Zach Williams and Juno winner Jordan St. Cyr.
100 years only happens once in the life of a university like ours. And so we thought, well, how can we make a splash in southern Manitoba? One way is to have one of the largest concerts ever in Steinbach, if not the largest concert.
And that concert is September 6th. Greco says about 1,500 students studied at Providence last year, and it currently grants degrees in a variety of programs, including divinity, business, and aviation. You can find more news updated throughout the day. All you have to do is head to cbc.ca/Manitoba.
All right. Thank you, Heather.
Thank you.
And for your latest weather and traffic, you don't have to go anywhere because Abby's here now with that. Hi, Abby.
Good morning. We're looking at more like a warm, sunny, and kind of humid day across the southern part of the province this morning. Winnipeg, we are still sitting at 17 degrees, clear outside. We're expecting sunny conditions, and then we'll see that transition to a mix of sun and clouds later in the afternoon. Winds will come light from the southwest, and then it's going to be changing direction at some point. We'll get to 29 degrees, and the humidity is going to be feeling around 33 and 35 in some parts of the city. For the Pembina Valley region, Morden, Winkler, Altoona, Morris, down to the U.S. border, we're seeing temperatures also hovering around 17 and 18 degrees this morning. Also clear there. Sunny day in the forecast, and a mix of sun and clouds will sweep in during the afternoon period. Winds will also be light from the southwest, warming up to 30 for that part of the province, and the humidity around 35. In the Westman region, Brandon all the way down to Killarney and the Minnedosa end, we're seeing temperatures around 11 and 12 degrees now. Clear there. Also expecting a mix of sun and clouds with light winds coming from the northwest. The highs would get to around 30 degrees. The humidity will be feeling a bit around 35, 36 there. In the Parkland region, from Dauphin all the way down to the Russell-Roblin region, we're seeing temperatures around 16 degrees this morning. Also clear conditions. We're expecting a mix of sun and clouds later in the day with the winds coming from the west, warming up to 30 degrees there. In the Interlake region, good morning, Gimli. You are stuck at 14 degrees for now. Clear skies you have there. It's going to be sunny, a mix of sun and clouds later in the afternoon. Light winds will come from the southwest, and temperatures will be warming up to around 30 degrees, and it will be feeling like 35 at some point. So more like you get to, if you warm up, you get to go for a dip in the beach or something.
No kidding. People are going to want to dip in the beach. It's a long weekend.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's like, you never know what we're going to get.
And that's what we're going to be expecting into the weekend. So this is more like a kickoff into the long weekend. For the powerful influence surrounding areas, we're looking at 17 degrees at this point, partly cloudy there. We saw some foggy conditions starting the day in that region, but now we're seeing partly clear skies. We will see a mix of sun and clouds shortly, and temperatures will get to 30 degrees for that region. The humidity will be around 35. Thompson is stuck at 13 degrees right now. It's clear there. Today, also expecting a mix of sun and clouds. We saw fog patches also earlier, but that should dissipate as you get into the morning. You warm up to 30 degrees, and then in Churchill, 17 degrees, partly cloudy this morning. There's a slight chance of showers in the forecast there, and the risk of thunderstorms to go with that. Temperatures will be getting to around like 25-ish for that part of the province. So it's going to be more like a warm, sunny day across the province. We'll see most of the regions warm up close to 30 degrees, and the humidity will be something to take into consideration today. More like that weather to set up that long weekend.
All right.
Winnipeg right now, we are still stuck around 16 degrees.
I know you got to change your hat now, so I'm going to give you a second here to look at what's happening in traffic. You know, it might be a little quieter this morning because sometimes people take that extra long weekend.
Yeah, people take that extra long weekend. But for those that will be making that commute, just remember the spots in town where we have those construction cones popping up here and there, and where we have new buildings popping up also. We'll find the workers taking portions of the lane. So you need to take it easy at that part. The only one I have on my screen for now will be that condition we have at westbound Portage, which is down to one lane at Empress Underpass. You need to expect some delays at that point. So slow down when you approach that axis or take another route. You see anything in traffic? 788-3093.
All right, thanks, Abby.
Thank you.
Well, next in the show, Hallie Cottenham is joining us now with our business news this morning. Hi there, Hallie.
Hey, good morning, Marcy.
So why don't we begin with Canada's trade deficit with other countries, because it exploded, I understand, in the second quarter. Why did that happen? What does it mean big picture?
Yeah, the numbers are startling, but I don't think your listeners are going to be super surprised at why this is happening. So just to give you an idea, the trade deficit hit a record $19.5 billion April to June. That's according to this fresh data from Stats Canada. Compare that to a deficit of less than $1 billion in the first quarter. Now, just to be clear, a trade deficit is when we buy more from foreign countries than we sell to those same countries. So the reason for the worsening trade figures, what we sold to other countries fell by 13% in the second quarter. Experts say this is, of course, the effect of the American tariffs on our goods. Bigger picture, though, some economists are warning that if Canadian businesses are exporting less, they might not need as many workers to make the smaller orders, and unemployment rates could go up.
Let's go to another story. We're getting money, not you and I, but the provinces. Big Tobacco starts paying out money today. What are the details here?
Yeah, an historic tobacco settlement worth $32.5 billion. I can tell you that Manitoba stands to receive $280 million upfront today, with a total compensation of $1.1 billion. Back in March, an Ontario judge signed off on this plan, which requires 3 major tobacco companies to pay out compensation to provinces and territories, and also former smokers, after decades of mediation between Big Tobacco and these creditors. Now, if you imagine who is in this creditor basket, it's a group that includes a couple of class action plaintiffs out of Quebec, groups of plaintiffs, that is, but also the provincial and territorial governments, who are really hungry to recoup some of that smoking-related healthcare costs. Now, the thing is that this settlement, this big settlement, won't stop tobacco sales to an estimated 4 million smokers in Canada. And that's really a disappointment to advocates who point out that 46,000 Canadians still continue to die every year from tobacco-related deaths. For Big Tobacco, this whole thing could have been worse because the initial claims against them totaled more than $1 trillion. But bottom line, Marcy, this is a huge settlement of all outstanding tobacco litigation in the country. It's taken decades to litigate. Just this week, an Ontario Superior Court judge signed off on $909 million in legal fees to go to the class action lawyers and the companies they work for, who've been fighting tobacco companies in the courts for the past 3 decades.
So pulling that number out that Hallie just mentioned for Manitoba, $280 million, we will have to ask the Premier, because we journalists last night in our CBC News Centre, our colleagues, looked at what the Premier here said. So he had said last year, Wab Canoe, that they would use the money to pay for a new cancer care building and, quote, other prevention measures. So what does that mean? And does that mean all of it will be used for that? We'll have to check with the province later today. Let's go to another story, though, with you before you go. When it comes to flying, there's a change here to the idea of how old is too old to get up in the air.
Well, folks hope there's going to be a change. A group representing airlines around the world is asking the UN's aviation agency to raise the age limit for commercial pilots from 65, where it is now, to 67, saying that the demand for air travel is outstripping the supply of pilots. So the International Civil Aviation Organization, or ICAO, is going to consider this proposal at its next General Assembly. That's next month. The rules prohibit airline pilots older than 65 from flying international flights, and many countries, including the U.S., apply that same rule domestically as well. Here in Canada, a 65-year-old Air Canada pilot challenged the mandatory retirement rules, but a Canadian Labour Court arbitrator ruled that 65 was a reasonable or an acceptable cutoff, in part because Canadian airlines, as you know, frequently fly over U.S. airspace when their rules would kick in. So if ICAO accepts the proposed changes, there would still have to be at least 2 pilots operating each flight, and one of those pilots would have to be younger than 65. Pilots unions in the U.S. are opposing any of this. They're lobbying against it. They oppose the higher retirement age, citing safety concerns.
How are the markets looking this morning?
Germany and France and the UK all down. Mixed results in Asia so far. Oil is down 27 cents to $64.32 US. Gold down $9.70 to $3,464 US. And the Canadian dollar down just slightly at 72.70 cents US.
All right, Hallie, thank you.
Thank you.
Hallie Cotton with our business news. She's going to be filling in for Crystalie Ramlakan for the next stretch here on our morning show. 6:44 a.m. It is August 29th. It's Friday before the long weekend, and that means next week it's the back to school week. We heard earlier in the show about Orientation Day yesterday at the University of Winnipeg. It prompted us to ask you what you're reflecting on as back to school happens, and also some of your memories in those early university first days. Here's a call we got.
45 years ago, when I entered the University of Manitoba as part of the first year of 1980 diploma agriculture student, I was struck by the size of the campus, and I couldn't but look and wonder at the graduates of all the years at the ag building. My dad had been started his class 30 years previous in the fall of 1950, the year of Winnipeg's big flood. Many of the lower levels, he said, were still suffered from water damage. The flood level was visible on most buildings. Great family memories have come from the university days. For the first 20 years that our family was in Manitoba, we were on the Assiniboine River. Then 130 years ago, great-great-grandfather moved us to the hills, northwest of Winnipeg, in a little town called Austin on the CPKC main line. And life in the hills, life in the sandy hills of Sydney have been great. As a retiring farmer, I encourage all the students to enjoy their university days.
I love that sentiment, and I love that you were up early to share it with us as well, Robert. Robert Smith calling our listener line this morning after hearing about the, reflecting, our call out to reflect on those early days of school, whether it's university or another grade level. It's funny what things stick in your head, right, about school. I remember going to U of M. I was mentioning earlier in the hour, my friend, who's now like a partner at an engineering firm, has done very well. But when she was in university and she was a woman in the 90s going into engineering, I remember her coming back and I was in another department and she's like, there's no women's bathroom. There's no women's bathroom, And now we're talking, obviously, in 2025, we talk a lot about gender-affirming bathrooms and bathrooms for all. But at that time, it was just men's washrooms at the university campus at U of M for engineering. So sign of the times back then. Lots of different things, though, might stick in your head about those first days of school. You can call us, 788-3205. Right now, let's hear from CBC's Andrew Hines, who hit the streets of his city. He's actually up in Whitehorse. He talked to people who've already been through the first day of high school.
If you had advice for yourself going into high school, looking back on it now, what advice would you give yourself, I guess?
Don't take yourself so seriously. Have fun. Be curious.
and then just enjoy your first days back.
It was a good time, yeah. I mean, I remember being very nervous when my first day. Of course, you're going to a new school, new people, new friends, all that sort of thing. So, but it powered through, so that's good.
Well, what were you nervous about mostly?
Well, the newness of it, new people, new curriculum. I'm in high school, like it's your first year of high school, so you better not screw it up, sort of thing. But yeah, no, it was good.
It's gonna be okay. I was a total loser and didn't have any consistent friends. And then I found rugby, and it was like I found my community, but I was in grade 11. And then I had grade 11, 12, it was great.
My favorite quote is still a Dr. Seuss one, and yes, everybody knows it. Be who you are and say what you feel, because those who mind don't matter, and those who matter don't mind. So just be yourself.
Probably take it less seriously. Like I was kind of a bit too uptight about certain things, but obviously you need to take it seriously enough, but there's still fun to be had.
Let yourself make some mistakes, it sounds like.
Exactly, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
My first day of high school.
Yeah.
It was exciting as well as, I was nervous too, to be honest.
What were you nervous about?
So many things. I was I was doing my high school back in India. So I changed from elementary to high school, so it was totally different friends, and you've got to meet a lot of new people, new instructors, and pretty much everything was new about it. So.
Oh man, when I think of high school, I just think of anxiety. So just anything I could tell myself that none of it matters, and to not feel that anxiety.
On my first day, the bad decision I made was trying to be a cool kid and getting off the bus one stop early and accepting a cigarette.
Whoa.
And that's been a lifelong challenge, so don't do that.
Okay. Lifelong challenge of accepting cigarettes?
Of attempting to get off the cigarettes.
Okay, I see. Wow, and it all stems back to the first day of high school.
Yeah, because I was trying to be cool.
Whoa.
Yeah.
So what would your advice be to yourself then? Don't get off the bus at that stop?
Yeah, and don't try and be cool by smoking cigarettes, because you'll spend 20 years trying not to smoke them.
Wow, that is deep. Thank you.
You can call us with any of your memories about, first day back. That was around high school memories from the CBC's reporter up in Whitehorse, Andrew Hines, talking to folks about high school, university, whatever education you might be heading back to next week, or maybe it's a first day somewhere. We'd love to hear how you're thinking about it. And if you want to reflect on your past experience, that's cool too. 788-3205.
Breaking news happens anywhere, anytime.
Police have warned the protesters repeatedly, get back.
CBC News brings the story to you as it happens.
Hundreds of wildfires are burning.
Be the first to know what's going on and what that means for you and for Canadians.
This situation has changed very quickly.
Helping make sense of the world when it matters most. Stay in the know. CBC News.
Let's have a quick look at your weather here in Winnipeg. Partly cloudy, 17 degrees. Brandon's clear and 13. Mainly clear in Thompson and 13 degrees. Little fog up around Churchill and Flin Flon. It's going to be sunny and hot today with humidex 33 in Winnipeg, a high of 29. In Brandon, mix of sun and cloud, high 30. Humidex 35. Thompson, mix of sun and cloud and a high of 30, but also humidex 35. So very hot weather to round out the end of the month here. We're at August 29th. Of course, September's knocking on our door around the corner here on the weekend. Labor Day long weekend for its part looks like it's going to be pretty decent, especially if you're looking for some hot weather and maybe want to go hang out in the park or at a beach. Winnipeg is going to be clear tonight, partly cloudy tonight, low 16, sunny and clear tomorrow, high 31, clear tomorrow night, and then Sunday a high of 30. Monday a mix of sun and cloud and 26 degrees. So it looks like our next chance of showers is Monday night. In Brandon, very similar conditions, super hot, especially Saturday with humidex around 37. It's going to be mostly clear through the weekend. Sunday night, cloud moves in, and then again, Monday night, your next best chance of showers. And then in Thompson, I mentioned today hot, but tonight partly cloudy, tomorrow sunny as well with humidex 37, and then into Sunday and Sunday sunny. But Sunday night in Thompson, that's when the rain starts there, so periods of rain expected. And on Monday, for your long weekend up north in Thompson at least, you are looking for a day of showers for Labor Day Monday. Just a reminder, we do have local programming here on Monday, at least for the morning show. So you will have a local CBC morning show. And then there's some very special programming for the rest of the day. So we hope you join us. If you're reflecting on Labor Day and all issues of labor in this country that have been shifting and changing, you can always weigh in on any of our CBC pages. Next on the program, to serious matters, news of the death and destruction coming from Gaza is something we read, see, and hear about daily, but on the ground in Gaza, the world's media has been mostly shut out. That's why a collection of news outlets from around the world are taking part in a project to help better tell the story of what's happening there. It's being organized by the European Broadcasters Union, or the EBU. CBC is part of that collective. Sasha Petrasik is a longtime foreign correspondent for CBC News. He joins us from a studio in Toronto. He's going to tell us more about the latest effort to cover the war in Gaza. And we're getting to you a little late, Sasha, so I'm going to let you lead how much of the report we can get on, but we're so grateful you have some time for us today.
Thank you, Marcy. Yeah, this is an interesting project, a collaboration between 8 broadcasters, mostly in Europe, also North Africa, and of course, the CBC. And we are trying to get the Palestinian freelancers that we work with in Gaza on the ground to focus on what's going on and to show us what the situation there is, especially the famine, which has been critical. Now, Israel does not allow foreign journalists like myself to go into Gaza freely, but we needed to put faces on this crisis, which we know is happening from a number of sources, of course, and that's been going on for 2 years now. It's really, really critical work. It's dangerous work for the Palestinian freelancers, but we wanted to actually get at it in a different way.
So what's the status of the famine?
Well, we've been hearing about the famine arriving for some time, but last week a UN-backed hunger monitor called IPC officially declared that it had arrived, that more than 500,000 Palestinians, in the north especially, are facing what the group calls catastrophic conditions: starvation, destitution, and death. And the group said that the level of starvation would probably be spreading to most of Gaza's 2 million people. Those are the numbers. Then we asked our freelancer on the ground to talk to one of these people suffering from famine. He's 17-year-old Ahmed al-Batniji. And, to look at him in his bombed-out house, there's no other word for it. He's really skin and bones. This is what he had to say.
I'm in pain every day, and the pain gets worse all the time because of the rash I have on my body, and my feet are swollen. I can't live my life normally like other people. I wish we could go back to our lives before the war, even for just one day. Right now, life is hopeless. It's destroyed.
And, Marcy, I have to tell you one other thing. We spoke to Ahmed last week. We just got the news that he has, in fact, passed away. His mother says that in the past days he got weaker and weaker, and with no access to food or treatment, he couldn't hold on. But the thing is, this is not an isolated case. These local journalists that we're working with inside Gaza have talked to literally hundreds of Gazans in exactly the same situation. Israel denies that it's a widespread problem in Gaza. And in fact, when the UN-backed monitor came out with its findings of famine, Israel's foreign ministry said the numbers were fabricated. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu called it an outright lie.
Remind all of us how we got to this point.
Well, ever since October 7th, nearly 2 years ago, when all of this blew up, Israel's kept a very tight control on food coming into Gaza. And in fact, human rights groups, including Israeli human rights groups, have accused the government of using starvation as a weapon of war. The Israeli government sidelined the main supplier of food, the UN, back in the early days, saying it was guilty of helping Hamas by hiring some of its militants and allowing food to be hijacked by them. But after investigation, the UN, a U.S. government report, and NGO said there's actually not any evidence of a systematic effort by Hamas to steal food. Sandra Rashid is with the big U.S. NGO, ANERA.
There is no evidence that Hamas is taking the humanitarian aid. What we're seeing is that there has been a situation of chaos created when you have a desperate population, when you have a hungry population, when you have a starving population, and tricks are coming in. then the looting happens. Then the gangs are able to stop the trucks and take whatever they need.
This has been going on. Israel has replaced the UN with an agency approved by it and made up of mostly armed U.S. contractors called the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation. But their aid distribution sites have often turned very violent. In fact, the UN estimates that around 1,400 people have died near these sites, many shot by Israeli soldiers. GHF disputes that. There have also been airdrops in the past month by a number of countries, including Canada, but aid agencies say that's a far, far less effective way of delivering aid.
Sasha, we will talk to you later in the program. I'm going to leave you to talk to the director here. I'm just showing the strings to our listeners because we had a challenge getting to you, and you have so much more to share with us in your report. So we'll facilitate that off air, and we thank you for highlighting the start of what this group has been looking into and those stories on the ground. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much, Marcy.
That is the CBC's Sasha Petrusik. So we will have a fuller look at that report, his report, coming up later. Right now, Heather Wells with local headlines.
Well, the owner of a Charleswood home, once the site of a popular Christmas display, has started clearing trees from the property. Paul Taylor plans to demolish the house after repeated break-ins, vandalism, and theft. Some neighbors, though, were shocked to see hundreds of trees cleared. And 100 years is a milestone. It is one Providence University College marks next weekend. I'll be back with more Manitoba news at 7:30.
Thanks, Heather. In our forecast, partly cloudy, 17, the high, 29, feels like 33, going to be really hot. In the traffic situation, we had some earlier problems. Update something if you see anything out there. Right now, it's looking pretty good. 788-3093 is where you can reach us. Ahead in the next hour of Information Radio, we are going to be hearing from the CBC's Jim Agapito. He is going to be taking us to the Assiniboine Park Conservancy. We're hearing about a threatened Manitoba bird species there. And we're going to hear from a teacher going back.
The Current. I'm Susan Bonner. The summer is wrapping up. It hasn't been a slow one in Canadian politics.
The situation we're in now is that Canada and the United States have reestablished free trade for the vast majority of our goods.
Our National Affairs panel joins us to talk about what was achieved and what wasn't, and what to expect in the coming weeks. That's coming up on The Current.
The Current, this morning at 8:37, 9:07 in Newfoundland, and on the CBC Listen app.
This is World Report. Good morning, I'm Catherine Cullen. European Union defense ministers are gathering in Denmark to discuss support for Ukraine. Their meeting comes after a major Russian attack on Kyiv yesterday. The barrage of drones and missiles killed at least 23 people, with more still unaccounted for. Julia Chapman reports.
Emergency responders in Kyiv continue to search the rubble for survivors. The city was hit by one of its worst attacks of the war, triggering outrage across Europe. Kaja Kallas is the European Union's foreign affairs representative.
These attacks show that Putin is just mocking any kind of peace efforts that are made.
Russia says it was targeting military sites, but a residential building bore the brunt of the attack. EU officials are working to put more pressure on Moscow. That could include placing secondary sanctions on Russia's trading partners. Radek Sikorski is Poland's foreign minister.
An invader only stops fighting when he thinks he cannot win. And Putin still thinks he can win.
But Europe can't end the war alone. Donald Trump has favoured dialogue over weaponry, so far without any impact on the ground.
He was not happy about this news, but he was also not surprised.
That was Trump's spokesperson, Caroline Leavitt. The White House has now announced an $825 million sale of arms, including missiles that can reach a distance of 450 kilometers. It's thought to be the first offer of new weapons to Ukraine under Donald Trump's administration. Ukrainian officials are in New York today for talks with Trump's team about possible security guarantees. Julia Chapman, CBC News, London.
Thailand's former prime minister is defending herself after being booted from leadership today. Paesosung Shinawatra was removed from office by the Constitutional Court. It also dissolved her cabinet. Shinawat speaks to the media after her dismissal, saying she was only trying to safeguard the country's interests. The court ruled she violated constitutional rules on ethics during a June phone call with a senior Cambodian leader who then leaked the call. The conversation was about easing border tensions, but Shinawat was accused of speaking too freely about Thai national security and criticizing one of her own generals. Her dismissal is a major blow to her family's political dynasty. Her father, Thaksin, was prime minister between 2001 and 2006. Israel's military says Gaza City is now a dangerous combat zone. From across the border in southern Israel, you can hear the blasts and see the smoke rising over Gaza. The IDF says it is now operating with great force in the outskirts of Gaza City, and the tactical pause that allowed some food into the famine-hit city is now over. A statement from the Israeli Prime Minister's office says the bodies of 2 hostages have been recovered. One has been identified as the body of Ilan Weiss from Kibbutz Be'eri. The other has not been publicly identified. Economists aren't optimistic today's report from Statistics Canada will bring encouraging news. The agency is releasing second quarter gross domestic product numbers later this hour. As Philippe de Montigny reports, they're expected to show the growing impact of U.S. tariffs.
Canadian GDP expanded by 2.2% in the first 3 months of the year, largely due to a surge in exports ahead of U.S. tariffs. Now, for the next 3 months, the second quarter of 2025, economists are forecasting much more timid growth at about 0.2%. Some think we've even slipped into a slight contraction, like Jimmy Jean, chief economist at Desjardins.
Even if you're talking minus 0.7% or plus 0.2%, it's pretty weak overall. I think there's a consensus around the fact that the Canadian economy will suffer for the second quarter.
He also expects GDP to flatline for the second half of the year. Couple that with softening inflation and with most of Canada's counter tariffs coming off next month, Jean says it sets the stage for the Bank of Canada to lower its key interest rate.
So this is good news for the Bank of Canada if those dynamics are playing out this way, and I think it will put them in a position of being more comfortable with enacting a rate cut.
In its trade war de-escalation scenario, the Bank of Canada expects growth to pick up to about 2% over the second half of 2025. The central bank's next rate decision is expected in mid-September. Philippe de Montigny, CBC News, Toronto.
More than 150 workers near Windsor, Ontario are wondering, are U.S. tariffs the reason they're losing their jobs? The company that makes Crown Royal Canadian whiskey says it is moving some bottling volume to be closer to U.S. customers, but it did not explicitly say tariffs had anything to do with the decision. As Kathleen Saylors reports, the news is a blow to workers.
I can guarantee you there was a lot of tears coming out of that plant.
Diageo, owner of iconic Canadian brand Crown Royal, announcing it'll close its Amherstburg, Ontario bottling plant in February. At least 160 unionized workers stand to lose their jobs. John Dagnolo is president with Unifor Local 200.
Shock and devastation. This is something that you never want to hear. The members there are going, what are we going to do?
Dagnolo is no stranger to tough news this year. Local 200 also represents Ford engine plants in the Windsor area. Workers there are also on edge amid a trade war with the United States. The company says it will maintain its distilling and bottling facilities in Gimli, Manitoba, and Valleyfield, Quebec. Dagnolo says leaders at all levels need to work together to keep the Ontario plant where it is.
We got to make sure we fight like hell to make sure that we can keep that plant in that site.
Dan Gemis is the president of Amherstburg's Chamber of Commerce.
Now they're going to be focused on saving money between now and February. And so there's no doubt that all the small businesses in town will feel the effect.
The company says it will support workers throughout the closure process. The union says it's determined to fight it. Kathleen Saylors, CBC News, Windsor.
More than 200 books are marked for removal from library shelves in Edmonton's public schools. CBC News has obtained a document revealing some of the titles. They include The Handmaid's Tale, I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings, and The Perks of Being a Wallflower. The books have all been identified as containing explicit sexual content. The chair of the Edmonton Public School Board says this move is in response to an order from Alberta's Ministry of Education, and the school board is opposed to this new government policy. New Orleans is marking the 20th anniversary of Hurricane Katrina. It was on this day in 2005 that the storm made landfall along the Louisiana coast. Nearly 1,800 people were killed. The damage mounted to hundreds of billions of dollars. Steve Futterman reports Katrina's mark on the city lingers to this day.
Oh my gosh, here we are.
It remains one of the worst and deadliest natural disasters ever to hit the U.S.
It's unbelievable how many homes are just underwater.
20 years ago, Katrina's rain, storm surge, and eventual levee breaks left 80% of New Orleans underwater. Thousands were trapped, and as the water kept rising, there were desperate 911 calls.
So I'm going to die. The water is steady rising in the attic, ma'am.
It was historic.
Hurricane Katrina is now a Category 5 hurricane.
This week, many are reliving the terrifying moments.
5 o'clock that morning, we heard a big boom sound.
70-year-old Arcala Sutton lived in the lower 9th Ward, the area hardest hit.
I was praying and crying and praying and crying.
While most of New Orleans, like the French Quarter and the Central Business District, has recovered, other parts, largely in poor, economically deprived areas, never did.
There are houses that still have not been rebuilt. You got schools that never opened, that has been destroyed because of Katrina.
Much of the blame for the destruction has focused on the flawed design of the city's levees and floodwall systems. Billions have been spent to rebuild them. 20 years ago, President George W. Bush spoke to the nation.
This recovery will take years.
For those who lived through it, it's something they will never forget.
I lost everything but my life.
Steve Futterman for CBC News, Los Angeles.
The second line is a beloved New Orleans tradition. Its roots come from African-American jazz funerals, where there is a brass band parade trailed by dancing friends and bystanders. Every year, a second line is staged to mark the anniversary of Katrina. And today, thousands of people are expected to march. Local artists say it's a way to help neighbors heal and unite the community. That's the latest national and international news from World Report. I'm Catherine Cullen. This is CBC News. Nice work, gang.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Marcy Marcusa. Thanks for joining us. I was just sharing with my next guest this half hour how my glasses are fogging up this morning. Yours might be too. We're going to have a humidex of 33. It's going to be really hot in Winnipeg today. Welcome to CBC's Information Radio if you're just tuning in. This is your morning show on 89.3 FM, 990 AM on that app and on YouTube. More weather and traffic heading into the long weekend in a moment. This hour on the program, my guest, who I was just talking to off mic, is going to be here to share with us modern cancer prevention. It's more than just eating well and wearing sunscreen. We're going to talk about a new push from Cancer Care Manitoba to make moving our bodies a bigger part of that equation, so stay tuned. Also, at 7:40 this morning, we're going to learn more about a threatened species of bird that could soon be making a comeback in Manitoba thanks to a giant fake chimney that's been put up in Assiniboine Park. And at 10 to 8, a behind-the-scenes look at what happens at Winnipeg schools before the doors open next week. So that's all still ahead. Right now, Heather Wells is in with our news headlines and developing stories.
Good morning. Well, some people in Charleswood were shocked to see hundreds of trees cleared from a Rothland Boulevard property. That property used to be home to the Assiniboine Valley Railway, a popular model train and Christmas display. But Paul Taylor, the son of the former owners, says the heavily wooded property has become a target for repeated break-ins and thefts. So he has decided to demolish the house and clear the trees. We're going to hear more on that, the reasons behind it, and the reaction to it. And a Winnipeg lawyer says police were smart to obtain a warrant to search inside an encampment. Officers used that warrant to search a temporary shelter in the encampment near Waterfront Drive earlier this week, seizing bicycles and bike parts from what police describe as a chop shop. We'll hear from a criminal defense lawyer coming up in our next local news at 7:30.
All right. Thank you, Heather.
Thank you.
Abby Adiemi, what's going on out there?
Across board, Marcy, it's going to be warm, sunny, and we're going to see some light winds coming across the board today. Humidity will be mild, and it's going to be kind of comfortable at some point, but then we'll feel that warmth as we get into the day. In the southern parts, Winnipeg, right now, we're looking at 17 degrees. The sun making its appearance out there. Light southwest winds. Expect sunshine this morning. As you get into your lunch break period, we should see that transition to a mix of sun and clouds with the highs near 29 degrees, and the humidity will be around 33, 34. Across the southern regions, we're seeing 11 to 16 degrees already scattered across board, and it's going to be a similar story. Temperatures warming up close to 31 degrees in most of the regions, and the humidity will be around 35. Up north, we're seeing 13 to 18 degrees already, and the Churchill region, we're kind of seeing some cool temperatures there, but most of the regions will warm up to about 31 degrees today, and the humidity would feel close to 35 degrees. Winnipeg, right now, we are at 17, and we're warming up to 29. What a wonderful way to end August and into the long weekend.
Agreed. It could have been raining on us, and we had that needed rain last week because of the fires, and maybe now we can enjoy some beach and park weather.
Yeah, so if you're heading out for the long weekend, this is the perfect weather to kickstart that for you. In traffic, nothing to report yet, except if you are approaching those construction zones. Remember, if you're coming from the southern part of the city, from the university, crossing the Plaza Bridge all the way coming north, you will be meeting some slow traffic there, and also heading towards St. Vital and Abenoji Mikina. That lots of construction happening both ways, so you need to take that into consideration. But if you see anything in traffic and you want us to know, 788-3093.
7:14 a.m. is the time right now on CBC. Well, as I alluded to, let's talk about cancer prevention. When you think about it, you probably are already thinking about maybe eating healthier, wearing sunscreen, quitting smoking, or trying to. But do you think about exercise a great deal? We all know it's good for us. But there's a new campaign now by Cancer Care Manitoba that's highlighting the link between movement and cancer risk. To talk more about it, Kyra Gawalko is here with us, Education and Prevention Lead with Cancer Care Manitoba. Thanks for coming in.
Thanks for having me.
I should mention, if you're watching Kyra and I on YouTube, you're about to see some of those ads come up as well. So we're going to show you and talk about them as they pop up visually here. So these ads are on social media. They're on billboards. Can you describe sort of what a few of them say? I talked about the message behind them, but what do they look like?
Yeah, so the idea we kind of wanted to take was on, cancer loves, cancer hates. So, of course, cancer's going to love things that keep us sedentary, not moving a lot. And cancer's going to hate things that keep us active, keeps our body moving, our heart rate up, our breathing rate up.
So some of the examples, I think Ezekiel, let's put some of these up here. This is our YouTube producer here. So cancer hates counting steps, just with the feet in there. Cancer loves doom scrolling. I'm just going to read through them. Let's roll through them here. Cancer loves sitting still, and there's a picture of a big chair that, by the way, before doom scrolling, it had a person with a sheet in front, phone in front of their face. Cancer hates sweating, and there's an image of someone sweating. Cancer loves binge streaming. I'm feeling shamed and guilty right now. There's the remote there. That's a good thing, probably. Cancer hates bodies in motion, including your favorite moves, and it's showing someone dancing. And the one with steps has the feet in the picture there. Why did you take this direction? Why do you think it's going to land with people?
So when we first started thinking we needed to do something that was going to help, capture Manitoba's intention, we worked with a third-party company, came up with some ideas, couple concepts, and we did focus test it because we did want to make sure that whatever we did was going to resonate, and this ended up being the clear winner.
Can you share a little bit about why? Like, what did you hear in when you were focus testing about why it was landing with people? Is it a little bit of what I just said? I felt slightly shamed, but also it made me notice. Because I like to watch television?
Yes, right? It really did make you stop to think. And so the idea was, when we are doom scrolling, that, if you did see this ad, you might actually go, oh, I should maybe take a break, get up, move around.
Yeah. What's the actual goal with these ads in terms of people understanding the link? What's the link between how important movement is to prevent cancer?
Yeah, so there was a study a few years ago called Compare, and they showed that up to 40% of cancers can be prevented through a variety of different lifestyle factors. And of course, quitting smoking, number one. But second is physical inactivity. So we know that there is a large link between being physically active and reducing our risk of cancer.
Was that the same study where alcohol came up and everybody went, kind of also had a moment thinking it was, it's not just smoking, so to speak, right? That also is something that can affect rates of cancer.
Yes, alcohol is also on there, as with all of the other, modifiable risk factors, things that we can do to reduce our risk, as we've mentioned, sun and healthy eating.
Are there specific types of cancer that movement moving can prevent? Other than others, like which cancers does it particularly help with?
Yeah, so there's a variety of different cancers that actually can be affected, including, breast, colon, lung.
What about the method of promoting health and cancer prevention and digital advertising when you think about that? Because I mentioned this is going to be, held in different spaces. Tell me a little bit about whether or not that advertising works or what you understand about it.
Yeah, so we, again, wanted to, utilize the platforms that are supporting people in being sedentary. And so using digital platforms where people probably are more likely to be sitting or be sedentary was a thought that would be more motivational to be able to capture them in the act.
Target people where they're at, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is there an amount of movement, Kyra, that people should consider if they're trying to make a dent in their cancer risk through movement?
Yeah, the recommendation is to aim for 2.5 hours of moderate to intense aerobic activity in a week. And so that really just means something that gets your heart rate increased, your breathing rate increased. And although that is a target, everything that we do that is more than what we're currently doing is going to help reduce our risk of cancer.
How big of a problem are these the activities, the sedentary activities that you highlight in the campaign? The binge watching, the doom scrolling. How huge of a concern is that right now? I shouldn't say huge, say I'm projecting what I think, but how big of a concern is that right now?
Well, we want to make sure that people are, again, understanding moderation, right? Not to say that that's not something you can't be doing at all, but it's that we want to make sure that we're also including movement in between episodes.
Yeah. Anything else to add about the campaign or what you're hoping people will think about as this continues to roll out?
Just a reminder that it's not just making sure that you are either being physically active, so like that you're exercising, but it's a combination of both, making sure you get exercise in and regular movement.
I should ask as a last question, who's in the campaign? Because we see someone sweating there and such. Are these Manitobans, or did you go for, did you cast for the folks in the billboard?
Yeah, we wanted to make sure that we found some images that really captured the essence of what we were trying to get across.
Got it. So they're not necessarily all local folks.
Correct.
Okay. I was wondering, you could take a picture of me binge watching up there. There's no face in that one, by the way. It's just the remote. Thank you very much, Kyra, for being in with us this morning and for explaining a little bit about these ads as people see them around town.
Thank you.
That is Kyra Gowalko. She's the Education and Prevention Lead with Cancer Care Manitoba, talking a little bit about their new fall campaign. Now, there's another reason that Cancer Care is in the news this morning, and I want to highlight that because it came up earlier on our business news. So today is going to be a day where we have to ask the province what they're going to do with money, because Big Tobacco will start paying out big money today. The historic tobacco settlement, $32.5 billion. Manitoba gets $280 million of that. That's the proportion. And so the Premier previously had said that would be spent on the new Cancer Care building, but also on prevention. So what specific ways will that money be spent here? And has the Premier changed sort of focus on where those funds will best be spent? Those are all questions that we'll seek answers to through the day here on CBC. Time right now is 7:21.
CBC Music, live at Massey Hall, the most iconic music venue in Canada. An absolute milestone in the careers of musicians who stand on the historic stage. And you have a front row seat. All right. A new season of episodes now available. Bahamas, The Glorious Sons, The Sadies, Field Guide, Serena Ryder, O.C. Elliott, and Chantal Kreviazek. CBC Music, live at Massey Hall. Watch free on CBC Gem.
Weekend's Blinding Lights. By the way, you might have heard this morning something about that tune. It is number one on Billboard's top hot R&B and hip hop songs of the 21st century. So that chart coming out today. So that is in the top position. It is at 7:25 a.m. rather in Winnipeg, and we're going to get close to 25 actually, or above 25 rather. High 29 today. With Humidex going to feel like 33 right now in the city. Though we're sitting at 17 to start your Friday morning. I'm Marcy Marcusa. It is Labor Day weekend right around the corner, and that means that we got to talk about football with Brian Ray. Good morning.
Hey, good morning, Marcy.
So big weekend in the CFL. We're watching the Bombers. We're going to be in Saskatchewan.
60th annual Labor Day Classic and up against the Rough Riders on Sunday. So let's have a listen to what Mike O'Shea has to say, whether he ever stops to take in the atmosphere ahead of the big event.
No, I usually go to bed. So usually... But I do appreciate it. You know, when I walk to the stadium, I like to see the tailgate area and all the goings-ons, you know. I like the rivalry. You can't miss it when you're heading into the city, when you're just walking around going out to eat or anything like that. You can't help but notice it and feel the energy, which I think is excellent.
Should be a sold-out crowd for this one. Bombers looking to make up some ground on the Rough Riders, who lost to the Stampeders last weekend. Calgary just 2 points ahead of the Bombers. So whatever happens, it's back to Winnipeg next weekend. The Riders come to town on Saturday. 2 games on Monday. Argos up against the Ticats in Hamilton. And then it's the Battle of Alberta, the Elks against the Stamps in Calgary.
And in case you're wondering, yes, in Regina, the Bombers have again put up billboards in the city. This year they read, "Friends don't let friends wear green." A public service message from the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, which I thought was nice and cheeky. All right, let's talk tennis. So what's happening at the U.S. Open?
Yeah, some good results for Canadians. Really fun night for Leylah Fernandez, who got to share the court with the legendary Venus Williams in women's doubles. They got the win in their opening round match. So here's what the 45-year-old Venus had to say about playing alongside the 22-year-old Leylah.
I'm used to being the big sister. I'm kind of like asking her what she wants. It's important for her to feel comfortable. And theoretically, I have the more experience, but she's been playing a lot more matches. So maybe that makes us neck and neck. But I think we just had to see what happened, right? Because you never know what's going to happen in a match, and you have to adjust. And once we got down, I feel like then we just put our foot on the gas.
Yeah.
So before Leylah gets to play with Venus again, first she's got a big singles match today up against top seed Arina Sabalenka. Gabby Dabrowski was a winner in her doubles match. Over on the men's side, Gabriel Diallo knocked out in his second round match, but wins for Felix Auger-Aliassime and Denis Shapovalov, so they're into round 3, but they have some tough competition next. Alexander Zverev for Auger-Aliassime, and Shapo's up against the top-ranked Yannick Sinner. Both of those ones tomorrow.
And it's a special night for a Canadian baseball player.
Yeah, youngster out of Markham, Jonah Tong, set to make his major league debut. Got called up from the minors by the Mets. He'll start against the Marlins in New York tonight. He was really in Double-A and just got a couple starts in Triple-A before getting the call to the big show. So here is him describing when he told his parents he got the call.
Walking in, I was like, I'm holding it together. No tears. And I called my mom, and I was like, hey, where you at on Friday? And she's like, get out. Use different words on that one. But yeah, she got me pretty good. I think for the rest of like the hour, I was just bawling. My dad didn't pick up originally. I think he was having a tough day at work, but I think that made it stay a little better.
So a great occasion for him. The Jays had the night off. They're back in action tonight against the Milwaukee Brewers, the best team in baseball. Shane Bieber getting the first start in Toronto. He looked pretty good in his debut for the Jays on the road. So a big one tonight. Jays have a 3.5 game lead over the Red Sox for top spot in the AL East.
All right, Brian, thanks a lot.
Have a good one.
You too. That is Brian Ray filling in for Scott Regehr with Morning Sports on CBC every morning at 7:25. We run down sports. We're going to be talking about birds after your CBC Winnipeg News, specifically the Assiniboine Park Conservancy's efforts to help a threatened species of bird have a soaring success. And this is a little bird that lives in a chimney. So that means they've constructed a chimney over at the park to try to help with the birds. Is it working? We're going to find all about chimney swifts after your CBC Winnipeg News.
This is CBC News. Good morning. I'm Heather Wells in Winnipeg at 7:30. Lots of sunshine. We're going to have lots of heat, too, on this final Friday for the month of August, and that heat stretches right through the Labor Day weekend. Mix of sun and clouds this afternoon, a high of 29, the humidex 33. Hundreds of trees are coming down at a property on the edge of Assiniboine Park. Years ago, it was the site of an elaborate model train and Christmas lights display, but the son of its former owners says the heavily wooded property has become a target for looters and squatters. CBC's Cameron McLean has the story.
Everything's just torn to bits, right?
Paul Taylor's childhood home used to attract people to see his dad's Christmas lights.
Yeah, this is the train station.
Children rode a train through the property on Roblin Boulevard, but 2 years ago, Taylor returned from a trip to find squatters.
So they flooded the house, and if you crouch down, you can see all the walls are just black mold. They are black mold. So
freaky graffiti everywhere.
The thieves and squatters kept coming back. With the house set far back from the road and obstructed by trees, it's hard to monitor. He decided to demolish the house and clear the trees.
If you enable them by providing a venue like this, you're just part of the problem.
The sight of hundreds of broken trees came as a shock to Brian Patterson, who has lived next door for 67 years.
I knew something was happening, but I just didn't realize the scope of, I hesitate to say destruction, but it's what it is.
The city ordered tree clearing to stop on Wednesday because Taylor didn't get a permit. He's now applied for one and expects clearing to continue. Cameron McLean, CBC News, Winnipeg.
A defense lawyer says Winnipeg police were smart to obtain a warrant to search inside an encampment this week. Officers used the warrant to search a temporary shelter in a camp off Waterfront Drive. They seized bicycles and bike parts from what police describe as a chop shop. Police say they did not search anywhere else in the camp and no one was evicted. Chris Gamby at the Criminal Defense Lawyers Association of Manitoba says that was a good move by police.
Part of it is that there is some respect for the people who live in encampments, and I think they do have a right to dignity, privacy, these things that we commonly take for granted.
Gamby says police were there to enforce the law. He says that needs to be kept separate from discussions about the existence of encampments. 2 men are charged with possessing property obtained by crime. Manitoba's Minister of Municipal Affairs says the province is reviewing a new report by the Auditor General of Manitoba. That report says the government needs to keep a more watchful eye on rural municipalities. A number of issues were under the microscope, including allegations of RMs involving purchases. It says the province does not have enough oversight on how municipalities use grants. Glenn Simard says his department will work with local governments while also respecting the jurisdiction they have over their own financial decisions.
We obviously take any breaches to the conditions for funding agreements very seriously, and we'll continue to work with them to be able to make sure that they can address these situations as they arise.
The audit report also looked at a cyber attack on the RM of Westlake Gladstone that led to cash withdrawals of nearly $500,000. The report recommends all RMs implement cyber security protocols. Israeli officials say the remains of 2 hostages have been recovered in Gaza. One has been identified as the body of Ilan Weiss from kibbutz Be'eri. The other has not yet been publicly identified. Now, this comes as the Israeli military is now referring to Gaza City as, quote, a dangerous combat zone. The IDF says it is now operating with great force on the outskirts of the city, and the tactical pause that was allowing for the delivery of some food supplies is now over. The Edmonton Public School Board has received a list of more than 200 books it has ordered removed from school libraries. The order comes from Alberta's Ministry of Education, and CBC News has obtained a document naming some of the titles, among them Margaret Atwood's The Handmaid's Tale, and I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings by Maya Angelou. The ministry has determined the books contain explicit sexual contact that is not considered age appropriate. You can hear the latest national and international news coming up on World Report at 8. Providence University College is celebrating 100 years over 3 days next weekend. The private Christian post-secondary institution first opened in 1925 as the Winnipeg Bible Training School. It now has campuses in Otterburn and Winnipeg. Provost Nicholas Greco says, while Providence maintains its Christian origins, students of all faiths or no faith are earning degrees there.
It's not about necessarily believing in Jesus Christ, but rather doing the kinds of things that Jesus would have taught us to do. And so that's kind of what we want students to leave this place with. Some of those ethics, ways to serve others in the world, and to be good citizens that contribute to their communities.
Greco says about 1,500 students studied at Providence last year. It currently grants degrees in a variety of programs, including divinity, business, and aviation. A 3-day centennial celebration kicks off next Friday, September 5th, a week from today. You can find more news updated throughout this day. All you have to do is head to cbc.ca/Manitoba.
And how did we get to this day, August 29th?
So fast.
Here
Summer
we
just
are.
disappeared.
I know. So heading into the long weekend, it looks like it's going to be hot. for most of Manitoba. Abby's here now with our regional forecast, starting with today. Thanks to Heather in our news center. Abby, what do we know?
Yeah, Mercy, lots of sunshine and heat in the forecast, and a lot of heat on the way as well as we head into the long weekend. It's going to be that's what we're going to see across board for most of the regions. Winnipeg at this time, we're seeing 16, 17 degrees being spotted here and there. Clear skies and the sun already making its appearance in most of the regions, and this is the condition that will build up to the high temperature we will be seeing today. Expect this sun conditions to stay with us for most of the morning into the afternoon period, where we'll see partly cloudy conditions. Temperatures will climb to around 29, 30. We'll see the humidity around 33, 34, 35 for some parts of the city as well, and then some partly cloudy skies tonight. The Pembina Valley region, more than wind cloud to the Morris all the way down to the U.S. border. Similar condition to Winnipeg. Light southwest winds. It's going to be sunny. Temperatures will climb to actual 30 degrees in that part of the province, and the humidity will be around 35 degrees. In the Westman region, Brandon, Nipawin, Surrey, all the way down to Verdun and surrounding regions, we're seeing temperatures around 11 and 12 degrees at this time. Also, temperatures climbing there. Light northwest winds. Expect a mix of sun and clouds today. The high will be around 30 degrees, and the humidity will be hovering between 35 and 36 for that part of the province. In the Parkland region, covering Dauphin, Russell, Roblin, Riding Mountain, and surrounding areas, we're already seeing 16, 17 degrees in that area. Sunny there, light west winds. Today will transition to a mix of sun and clouds at some point, and we'll see temperatures warm to around 30 degrees. The humidity would sit between 35 and 37 for that part of the province. In the Interlake region, Gimli is currently at 14 degrees, enjoying some sunshine there with some light southwest winds. Expect the sunny skies to stay with you for most of the morning into the afternoon period, where we'll see some clouds rolling. Temperature will warm to 30 degrees. The humidity will be around 35 degrees. And in the powerful influence surrounding areas, also enjoying sunshine at this time. We're seeing 18 degrees there. Light south winds there, also making just things a bit comfortable. We'll see a mix of sun and clouds, becoming sunny as you get into the afternoon. Then the temperature will climb to 30 degrees. The humidity will be around 35. Thompson, good morning. You are currently around at 13 degrees at this time. We saw some foggy conditions there. That's dissipated. Now we'll see temperatures climb to 30 degrees, and the humidity will be around 35 degrees. For Churchill, just around 5-6 degrees. That's what we're seeing at this time. We'll see temperatures, there's a slight chance of showers in the forecast, and temperatures will only fall for Churchill this morning to around 12 degrees. Temperatures will be falling to around 12 degrees, rather. We'll see the foggy conditions come back tomorrow. So it's going to be more like warm and sunny expected across board today. Winnipeg 17, we're warming close to 30 degrees, and the humidity is a concern. So it's going to be sunny and hot across board. You see anything in traffic, let us know. 788-3093.
All right, thanks, Abby.
Thank you.
Abby's doing double duty today, covering weather and traffic. Just a reminder, next week, because of school back in, right, you're going to have to slow down again due to school zones. And that starts September 1st. So even before kids are back in school, when the calendar flips this weekend, you're going to want to remind yourself to slow down in those zones. Well, next on the show, the Assiniboine Park Conservancy says their efforts to help a threatened species of bird have been a soaring success. Listen to these guys. These are chimney swifts. I think they're super cute. They're small, they're gray, they're kind of boomerang shaped in flight. I also think they sort of look like a skinny football with a pot belly with wings. You might have heard them, or you might have seen them zipping above your head on summer evenings, but their numbers have been dropping across Canada. Chimney swifts are particular about where they nest. And if you're watching on YouTube, you're going to see them in a chimney. Options have been running out, though, over the past few decades. The Assiniboine Park Conservancy says they have, as I mentioned, successfully attracted some of the birds to nest in the park over the past few summers. And to talk about it, Kirsten Eckhart is with us, Conservation Programs Manager at the Assiniboine Park Conservancy. Good morning to you.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm well. So what's led to these birds becoming a threatened species in Canada?
So there's a few different reasons. For one thing, the birds are insectivores. So that means they eat insects, and they do so while they're flying. So they're called aerial insectivores. And this group of birds is in steep decline. probably because their insect prey that they depend on has also been declining. So that's one of the reasons that we're seeing fewer of them. But the other reason is because chimney swifts are pretty unique about where they nest. So unlike regular birds that can sit upright and perch, chimney swifts actually have to cling to a vertical surface. So you'll see them in the chimney holding on with their clawed feet. That's their normal resting position. All of the other time that they spend is in flight. So they're flying around for eating, drinking, collecting nesting material. And they actually only come into the chimney or other surface interior to roost and to nest. So they used to roost and nest in old dead trees, but as we started to clear those away, they had to adapt and they started to use artificial structures like chimneys. But as we know, most of us don't have chimneys anymore, or if we do, we've capped them off so they're closed, or we've lined them with metal so they're not a really textured surface for the birds to use anymore. So they're running out of options. And that's the other reason that we see that they're declining.
Look at them there. I'm just looking at our YouTube feed there, just clinging to the side of the chimney as you described, with their wings flattened out as they're in resting position. They'd be amazing rock climbers, these little guys.
Yeah.
You constructed actually in 2019, there's an artificial chimney at the park to attract the birds. I understand though at first they weren't interested. When did you first start seeing chimney swifts inside the fake chimney? And remind us where that is. It's near Polo Park, right?
Yeah, so the artificial chimney is at the north end of Assiniboine Park, so it's pretty close to the English Gardens. It's fairly tall, but you might not notice it if you're just passing through the park, but it is a really tall sort of square column that rises up near the heavy horse enclosure. And that chimney was first installed in 2018. While we didn't have any evidence of the birds nesting there that year, every summer since then, we've seen the chimney swifts raising nestlings inside of the chimney. The reason we know they're doing that, other than seeing them going in and out and seeing immature birds flying around, is because we have a trail camera set up inside the chimney and our staff monitors it every summer.
Is that what
to see how many we have?
Is that what I'm looking at here? People are looking at if they're watching YouTube? Yeah, inside the chimney. It's so cool. Well, pardon me, you said 2018 is when it started to go up on the north part of the park. I don't know why I said Polo Park. What did it feel like when you saw, the success? As you said, the first year, not so much, but then they became attracted to it and you're having success. What did that feel like?
It was super exciting. This was the first time that an artificial structure had been used by chimney swifts in Western Canada. And the first time for the province of Manitoba. So it was very exciting to see the hard work that went into putting the structure up actually be used by the swifts. There have been some attempts in previous years of shorter chimneys, 12 feet tall, being constructed, but they weren't successfully used by swifts. So having this one work out was really rewarding.
Well, why is it important to increase the chimney swift population? What would it mean if these birds were to disappear ecologically?
So chimney swift populations have declined in Canada by about 90%. So we're trying to increase the habitat that they have for nesting to make them more successful at raising their young. And if they were to disappear, we would have a lot more insects flying around. And that includes insects that we think of as pests, like mosquitoes. Chimney swifts are insectivorous, and the vast majority of their diet is insects. So they're doing a really good job of helping keep insect populations under control. And without them, we would probably be tempted to use a lot more pesticides to get rid of things like mosquitoes, flies that we don't want bothering us.
Just two more quick questions, Kirsten, on these fascinating birds. People might be wondering if they still have chimneys. What happens if a swift gets in there? Like, can they be destructive?
They can't really be destructive. Their nests are very, very small, only about 4 inches wide. So they won't block up the chimney opening. However, if you are curious about whether there's chimney swifts using your chimney, you can always reach out to the Manitoba Chimney Swift Initiative. They are an organization that monitors chimney swifts in the province and will monitor existing nest sites and roost sites. So they'd be very interested in knowing whether you have chimney swifts in your chimney at home or in your residence.
And it's super, as you were mentioning how small the nests are, that they won't block them. We were watching some images go by, and you can see they just sort of look like a tiny nest that's kind of stuck on the side of the chimney in a flat way. So they really aren't very obtrusive. You mentioned the Chimney Swift Initiative website, which is important too because they also are looking for volunteers all the time. Thank you so much for explaining these, the birds and the success of the chimney here that people might now notice. Now that we've set it out, everybody's going to be in the park. We're driving by, I think, in Winnipeg and noticing it today. We appreciate knowing all about it. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for your interest.
So that's Christina Eckhart talking about some of the success about the chimney swifts and bringing back populations. She is the Conservation Programs Manager with the Assiniboine Park Conservancy.
Breaking news happens anywhere, anytime.
Police have warned the protesters repeatedly, get back.
CBC News brings the story to you as it happens.
Hundreds of wildfires are burning.
Be the first to know what's going on and what that means for you and for Canadians.
This situation has changed very quickly.
Helping make sense of the world when it matters most. Stay in the know. CBC News.
It is 12 minutes to 8 o'clock on CBC. It's 17 and partly cloudy in Winnipeg. It is August 29th. And stay with us here because after 8 o'clock on the program, we are going to be talking to a teacher for a behind-the-scenes look at what happens at Winnipeg schools before the doors will open for the school year next week. And of course, I do appreciate that Red River College. I know students right now are already up and going to school, and over at U of W, orientation was yesterday. Next on the show, let's turn to serious matters here that we started discussing on the program yesterday. A Winnipeg police officer was justified in killing 19-year-old Afolabi Opaso on January 31st, 2023. Now, that's according to a police watchdog report, an investigation that came out yesterday. You might remember that the investigation was moved to Alberta, and this is the findings. The report says police were called by Opaso's roommates. They told 911 operators he was in an apparent mental health crisis. So the report includes details from an interview with one of the officers present. In it, she says her partner and her drew their guns before entering Opaso's apartment. Opaso was seated with 2 knives in his lap. The officer ordered Opaso to drop the knives twice. She then holstered her gun and tried to draw her taser. But according to the report, Opaso was running at the officers with the knives. The second officer shot Opaso 3 times, resulting in his death, killing him. The report says the encounter with police lasted only a short time before Opaso was shot. He was one of several people shot by police in 2023 and 2024 in Manitoba. Now, those shootings led to several interviews that we had been covering here on CBC about how police forces train officers and how they deal with people in mental health crisis. Yesterday on the program, in case you missed this, we had Cash Heed on. Cash Heed is former chief of the West Vancouver Police Department and former Solicitor General in British Columbia. He said yesterday in reaction to the investigation that it is what happens before the police arrive on scene, in his view, that is the biggest concern. He says improving training and policy are critical.
I'm not going to criticize the police officers with respect to this. What I do want to criticize is how we develop policy and training to respond to these crises, because the crises are increasing. This scenario has been played out several times over the last couple of decades here in Canada, and it continues to be played out. We continue to be responding based on our default training and policies.
So that was Cash Heed yesterday on Information Radio in response to, as he said, not so much the outcome of the decision of the investigation, but really highlighting that in his view, we need to get ahead of better training here to try and prevent these incidents from happening. Now, around Opaso's death, we also did a series of interviews here at CBC, and we're going to revisit one this morning because it really resonates. In Norway, police cadets go through 3 years of training that focuses on communication and de-escalation. 3 years. And officers there don't always carry guns. Ruin Glomset is an associate professor emeritus with the Norwegian Police University College. He's also a former police officer, and he specializes in police leadership. I spoke with him in December 2024. Here's part of the conversation. What is the philosophy when it comes to de-escalation? And if you can sort of help us understand why it was developed in that way.
I think it was in about 2015. There was 2 teachers in arresting techniques that wrote a book, and they came up with the power pyramid, and that power pyramid is some kind of both a pedagogical and practical tool used in education and training of police officers. And it starts with presence of the police in different places, and then it's verbal communication, and then it's go up to use of firearms. And this is very much used in the education and also in the annual training for the police officers. And I talked to one police leader earlier this morning, and he told me that this model also gives some kind of safety or security for the police officers when they are going to choose what kind of means of action. So it is said that you always has to try to use the most least serious means before you get up.
Are officers required to carry a firearm?
No, but the Norwegian police has firearms locked inside the vehicles, and they have to get permission to use it. But we have had for several years now a huge discussion if we should have permanent weapon on every operational officers. So I think maybe next year or the year after we will have a permanent weapon on every operational officer in Norway because of the situations in the streets, the development of the crime and so on.
How do police in Norway respond to people in crisis and maybe who may be struggling with mental health struggles specifically?
They have training at University College. They use both lectures, and also they have cases. And then it's people from the healthcare who are specialists who tells them how to understand this kind of mental diseases and how people react when they have it. And they also train in how to meet and handle them. And when there is a situation in practice, operational, they always try to start with a conversation, and they use time and distance to not start using hard means like firearms. And after every situation, they have briefings, and they're discussing what was the situation, how did we choose to solve it, could we use another way to do less harm, and so on. So it's high on the priority list within the Norwegian police.
I don't want to leave the impression, however, that that there aren't incidents where people do get shot. I think there is a case that you cite where someone ended up being shot in the leg. What happened there, and as it relates to our conversation, what were the discussions out of it?
It was a situation on last Saturday night in a small town outside Oslo, our capital. And the police were called to a house, and it was said it was some kind of health call. So in my reading of it, I just read it in the newspaper. It was a person with mental health problems that the health service wanted police to come. And when they came to the house, he threatened the police with weapons. So they tried to talk to him, and the talking and keeping the distance stayed for 8 hours. But then he went against the police, and they had to shoot him. And they shot him in one of the legs, not to harm him too much. And that solved the case.
Do you think
And of
that
course, our police watchdog will investigate that case.
how well prepared do you feel the police officers in Norway are to handle some of the mental health calls?
I would think that they are pretty good prepared. And that is also the impression I got when I spoke to several police leaders some days ago. So they say that Norwegian police officers are very well prepared to meet those situations. And it is very challenging situations, of course.
How does an unarmed officer, I'm just curious, deal with a person who might have a knife then?
And we have pepper spray and also have telescope batons. So that is some kind of means that you can use. But they are trying to talk, but if that doesn't work, then they use the pepper spray or the electroshock weapon. That was also possible. So they are in a way armed to carry out that kind of situations.
That's part of an interview I did with Rune Glomset last December. He's an associate professor emeritus with the Norwegian Police University College and a former police officer and specializes in police leadership. Now, we obviously went back to that for context out of the investigation coming out yesterday into the death of a 19-year-old Afolabi Opaso in January 2023. A police officer yesterday was found justified in killing Afolabi in that incident. But we are looking at what one of our experts said yesterday, which is really trying to lean into, he said, we need better training, we need better policies. And so in other places in the world, how do they do things differently? And so we're looking at some of the journalism we've already done around that question, which continues, unfortunately, to come up in our community. Now, we also have requested an interview with Winnipeg Police Chief Gene Bowers, who we are hoping will be with us on CBC soon. It is 2 minutes to 8. Here's Heather Wells with headlines.
The owner of a Charleswood home, once the site of a popular Christmas display, has started clearing trees from the property. Paul Taylor also plans to demolish the house after repeated break-ins, vandalism, and thefts. Some neighbors were shocked to see hundreds of trees cleared from that Roblin Boulevard property. Manitoba's Minister of Municipal Affairs says the province is reviewing a new report by this province's Auditor General. The report says the government needs to keep a more watchful eye on rural municipalities. Among things it recommends, all RMs implement cybersecurity protocols. I'll be back with more Manitoba News at 8:30.
Thanks, Heather. Still ahead, how do reporters tell the story in Gaza when they can't get in? We're going to have a look at that after 8 o'clock. Also, a teacher in a new classroom finds artifacts from old teachers from over the years in Winnipeg. And we have northbound St. Mary's at Firmer vehicle in the curb lane.
On cue.
I'm Talia Schlanger in for Tom Power. The Beaches had a massive hit a couple years ago with their song Blame Brett. They'll tell you about the pressures of following up huge success and how on their new album they're embracing their messy side.
Q this morning at 10:30 in Newfoundland, and on the CBC Listen app or wherever you get your podcasts.
Hi, Sasha. Thank you very much for doing this with us.
No problem at all.
Okay, so we will be patching together and playing your full report after 8 so listeners get the full piece. And I'm not sorry they're getting a bit early and more later because it's important. So thank you for doing this.
No problem. So I should pick this up as if it just continues on.
Yeah, absolutely. I will start with question 4.
Okay,
Yep.
no problem.
So, Sasha, what's been the impact of all of this starvation?
Well, as you can imagine, it really has been devastating. When I talk about the starvation, when I talk about the famine, it really has been something that's had an impact on everything and everyone. And that includes the doctors, the medical staff.
City, and the tactical pause that allowed some food into the famine-hit city is now over. Israel has said before it believes Gaza City is a Hamas stronghold with a network of tunnels used by militants. A statement from the Israeli Prime Minister's office says the bodies of 2 hostages have been recovered. One has been identified as the body of Ilan Weiss. He was abducted from kibbutz Be'eri along with his wife and daughter on October 7th. The other body has not been publicly identified. European Union defense ministers are gathering in Denmark to discuss support for Ukraine. Their meeting comes after a major Russian attack on Kyiv yesterday. The barrage of drones and missiles killed at least 23 people, with more still unaccounted for. Julia Chapman reports.
Emergency responders in Kyiv continue to search the rubble for survivors. The city was hit by one of its worst attacks of the war, triggering outrage across Europe. Kaja Kallas is the European Union's foreign affairs representative.
These attacks show that Putin is just mocking any kind of peace efforts that are made.
Russia says it was targeting military sites, but a residential building bore the brunt of the attack. EU officials are working to put more pressure on Moscow. That could include placing secondary sanctions on Russia's trading partners. Radek Sikorski is Poland's foreign minister.
An invader only stops fighting when he thinks he cannot win. And Putin still thinks he can win.
But Europe can't end the war alone. Donald Trump has favoured dialogue over weaponry, so far without any impact on the ground.
He was not happy about this news, but he was also not surprised.
That was Trump's spokesperson, Caroline Leavitt. The White House has now announced an $825 million sale of arms, including missiles that can reach a distance of 450 kilometers. It's thought to be the first offer of new weapons to Ukraine under Donald Trump's administration. Ukrainian officials are in New York today for talks with Trump's team about possible security guarantees. Julia Chapman, CBC News, London.
Calgary police say a man wanted on a Canada-wide warrant is dead. Police are not naming the now-deceased suspect, and they are not revealing what the charges against him were. But they say he fired shots at a home in northwest Calgary yesterday. When officers tried to arrest him, he entered another house. The man also allegedly opened fire on a tactical police unit in armored vehicles. Hours later, police confirmed the man was dead. No other injuries were reported. Alberta's Special Incident Response Team is now investigating. Politicians in Texas are trying to block the distribution of mail-order abortion medications. The House passed a bill yesterday that allows individuals to sue anyone who makes, sends, or transports the pills. Critics say it could limit abortion medication even in states where abortion remains legal. Let's bring in the CBC's Lisa Shing from Washington. Lisa, what are lawmakers saying about this bill?
Well, Catherine, since Texas nearly completely banned abortions a few years ago, there appears to be an increase in abortions through the pill, which can be prescribed and mailed from states where abortion is legal, like in California and New York. And so this Texas bill is in response to that. So now the legislation allows ordinary people, really from anywhere, to sue companies that make the pill or people who send or prescribe it from elsewhere into the state and collect a minimum of $100,000 in damages. But to deter so-called bounty hunters, the final version of the bill says any plaintiff who doesn't have a connection to the case would only be able to keep $10,000 of that, with the rest going to charity. Here's what Republican Texas State Representative Nate Schatzline posted on social media.
If we cannot protect the unborn and our ladies in the state of Texas, what can we do?
There are also vocal opponents in the House, including Democrat Donna Howard.
Let me be clear. The only reason we have not seen a return to the days of coat hanger abortions is because of the medication abortion pill.
Now, this law is going to go to the Senate next week, where it's expected to pass.
And Lisa, what does this mean for broader abortion access in the United States?
Yeah, those opposed to the bill say this pill can generally become less available everywhere, even in states where abortion is legal, because presumably manufacturers and delivery companies like FedEx would want to avoid being sued. And keep in mind, some lawmakers in the House yesterday said and clarified an abortion doesn't have to occur for there to be enforcement of this law.
Okay, the CBC's Lisa Shing in Washington. Thank you.
You're welcome.
The Canadian economy contracted during the second quarter. Statistics Canada has just released its report on gross domestic product for April to June. It shows GDP declined 0.4%. This comes after a gain of 0.5% in the previous 3 months. Most of the slump is attributed to the decline in export goods in the face of U.S. tariffs. Canadian businesses are facing another hit from those U.S. tariffs. The Trump administration is terminating the de minimis exemption. It allows packages worth up to $800 to enter the U.S. duty-free. That ends today. As Paula Duhacek reports, Canadian companies are figuring out how to adjust to the change.
Taking a market where you are growing and turning it off is not my favorite thing to do in the world.
Christy Sumer is founder and CEO of the Toronto-based clothing company Encircled. She says U.S. customers represent about 35% of her revenue, but as of this week, she's cut off shipping to the U.S. altogether.
Since there is just a lot of uncertainty around what that is even going to look like, how it's going to be processed, and how much it's even going to cost.
For us, we've made the decision to eat the cost, which is, it's big, it's huge.
Jen Harper, founder and CEO of the makeup brand Cheekbone Beauty, is taking a different approach.
We're doing this on a temporary basis to see how much it actually is going to impact our bottom line.
It hits mom and pop shops disproportionately.
John Boscariol is a trade lawyer with the firm McCarthy Tatro.
And many of them who have relied on these low-value shipments to the United States as part of their bread and butter for survival are being hit by this and possibly may have to go out of business because of this.
Boscariol says he'll be watching to see if de minimis comes up during trade negotiations between the two countries. As for Christy Sumer with Encircled,
we're kind of scrambling, I would say, a little bit just to figure out what to do.
She's trying to figure out how to reopen shipping to U.S. customers. In the meantime, she hopes Canadian shoppers will make an effort to support local fashion this fall. Paula Duhacek, CBC News, Toronto.
After several delays, it looks like this is the day for Canada's first commercial space launch. Nord Space hopes to launch its single-engine rocket this morning from a spaceport in St. Lawrence, Newfoundland. If the company succeeds, it will be a big achievement for the space industry in Canada. But as Peter Cowan reports, it has also been a huge source of pride for the local community.
It's 6 meters of shining metal and 3D printed ingenuity. More than 100 people have come out to a concrete pad on a windswept peninsula in Newfoundland to see the Tiger rocket.
Quite cool, actually. I've always been, fascinated with space and rockets.
Derek Bringston lives nearby and wanted to come see it up close.
It's just a cool experience to be here today.
The company behind the launch is Nord Space. Its goal is to be the first Canadian company to design, build, and launch a rocket here in Canada. Right now, Canada is dependent on other countries to launch satellites into space. Rahul Goyal is trying to change that.
We're sending countless engineers. We're sending billions of dollars of taxpayer dollars south of the border over the next many, many years to launch things like internet communication constellations and more. And being able to reshore all of that is extremely important.
Nord Space looked at 20 sites across Canada, but St. Lawrence was chosen because they can launch out over the ocean and reach many different orbits. It's a town known for fishing and mining. It has an aging population. Young people move away. So Mayor Kevin Pittman hopes a spaceport turns things around.
And this is going to be one of the projects that helps keep them home and build our community and grow it again.
This rocket won't reach space. It'll go just a few kilometers into the air. But it could launch a whole new commercial space capability in Canada. Peter Cowan, CBC News, St. Lawrence, Newfoundland.
That's the latest national and international news from World Report. For news anytime, go to cbcnews.ca. I'm Catherine Cullen. This is CBC News.
Good morning, Manitoba. I'm Marcy Marcusa. This is Information Radio for the Friday before the long weekend, August 29th. It's going to be really hot today. Thanks for joining us on CBC 89.3 FM. This half hour on the program, you know what that means. The long weekend, it means that right after, everyone's back in school next week. We're going to hear from a new teacher who has a behind-the-scenes look at what happens at Winnipeg schools before the doors open for the school year. In their class, they've been finding different things left behind from teachers over many decades. We'll find out more about that as we hear about Faraday School and this new teacher's experience, so stay tuned. In addition, this half hour on the program, we're going to be talking to Sasha Petrusek, who is a longtime foreign correspondent for CBC News. And that is because CBC is part of a collection of news outlets from around the world that are taking part in a project right now to try and help better tell the story of what's happening in Gaza. And this is the world's media has been mostly shut out of being there. Let's go to news headlines locally from Manitoba now with Heather Walls.
Good morning. Well, some people in Charleswood were shocked to see hundreds of trees cleared from a Robin Boulevard property. That property used to be home to the Assiniboine Valley Railway, a popular model train and Christmas lights display. But Paul Taylor, the son of the former owner, says heavily wooded property has become a target for repeated break-ins and thefts. And so he's decided to demolish the house and clear hundreds of trees. We'll hear what neighbors have to say. And a Winnipeg lawyer says police were smart to obtain a warrant to search inside an encampment. Police arrested 2 people for what they describe as a bicycle chop shop, and the defense lawyer we'll hear from says that search warrant may help those charges stick. We'll hear about that coming up at 8:30.
Let's go to Abby now.
Most of the regions will be warming up close to 30 degrees this morning, and the humidity would feel like 35. We're starting with some sunshine already. Winnipeg at 17 degrees, and it's clear outside. You see anything in traffic? Let us know. 788-3093.
Well, just a correction that I'd like to issue now. Before the news, before World Report, in a story about an investigation into a police shooting, I said on air that a Winnipeg police officer was justified in killing 19-year-old Afalabo Opasi in 2023. The findings are that the police officer was justified in using force. So I want to make that important correction. Next, let's turn to Sasha Petrusek, who joined us earlier this morning to talk about this collection that I mentioned. So news of the death and destruction coming from Gaza is something that we're reading, seeing, and hearing about daily. But on the ground, the world's media has been mostly not there. So this collection of news outlets from around the world is taking part in a project to try and help better tell the story of what is happening in Gaza. It's being organized by the European Broadcasters Union, the EBU. CBC is part of the collective. Sasha Petrusek, as I mentioned, and as you likely know, is a longtime foreign correspondent. I spoke to him earlier about this.
This is an interesting project, a collaboration between 8 broadcasters, mostly in Europe, also North Africa, and of course, the CBC. And we are trying to get the Palestinian freelancers that we work with in Gaza on the ground to focus on what's going on and to show us what the situation there is, especially the famine, which has been critical. Now, Israel does not allow foreign journalists like myself to go into Gaza freely, but we needed to put faces on this crisis, which we know is happening from a number of sources, of course, and that's been going on for 2 years now. It's really, really critical work. It's dangerous work for the Palestinian freelancers, but we wanted to actually get at it in a different way.
So what's the status of the famine?
Well, we've been hearing about the famine arriving for some time, but last week a UN-backed hunger monitor called IPC officially declared that it had arrived, that more than 500,000 Palestinians, in the north especially, are facing what the group calls catastrophic conditions: starvation, destitution, and death. And the group said that the level of starvation would probably be spreading to most of Gaza's 2 million people. Those are the numbers. Then we asked our freelancer on the ground to talk to one of these people suffering from famine. He's 17-year-old Ahmed al-Batniji. And, to look at him in his bombed out house, there's no other word for it. He's really skin and bones. This is what he had to say.
I'm in pain every day, and the pain gets worse all the time because of the rash I have on my body, and my feet are swollen. I can't live my life normally like other people. I wish we could go back to our lives before the war, even for just one day. Right now, life is hopeless. It's destroyed.
And, you know, Marcy, I have to tell you one other thing. We spoke to Ahmed last week. We just got the news that he has, in fact, passed away. His mother says that in the past days he got weaker and weaker, and with no access to food or treatment, he couldn't hold on. But the thing is, this is not an isolated case. These local journalists that we're working with inside Gaza have talked to literally hundreds of Gazans in exactly the same situation. Israel denies that it's a widespread problem in Gaza. And in fact, when the UN-backed monitor came out with its findings of famine, Israel's foreign ministry said the numbers were fabricated. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu called it an outright lie.
Remind all of us how we got to this point.
Well, ever since October 7th, nearly 2 years ago, when all of this blew up, Israel's kept a very tight control on food coming into Gaza. And in fact, human rights groups, including Israeli human rights groups, have accused the government of using starvation as a weapon of war. The Israeli government sidelined the main supplier of food, the UN, back in the early days, saying it was guilty of helping Hamas by hiring some of its militants and allowing food to be hijacked by them. But after investigation, the UN, a U.S. government report, and NGO said there's actually not any evidence of a systematic effort by Hamas to steal food. Sandra Rashid is with the big U.S. NGO, ANERA.
There is no evidence that Hamas is taking the humanitarian aid. What we're seeing is that there has been a situation of chaos created when you have a desperate population, when you have a hungry population, when you have a starving population, and tricks are coming in. Then the looting happens. Then the gangs are able to stop the trucks and take whatever they need.
This has been going on. Israel has replaced the UN with an agency approved by it and made up of mostly armed U.S. contractors called the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation. But their aid distribution sites have often turned very violent. In fact, the UN estimates that around 1,400 people have died near these sites, many shot by Israeli soldiers. GHF disputes that. There have also been airdrops in the past month by a number of countries, including Canada, but aid agencies say that's a far, far less effective way of delivering aid.
So, Sasha, what's been the impact of all of this starvation?
As you can imagine, it really has been devastating. When I talk about the starvation, when I talk about the famine, it really has been something that's had an impact on everything and everyone. And that includes the doctors, the medical staff that are trying to treat people not only for the malnutrition, but also war wounds and many other diseases. And these people are starving too. So as they are working in the hospitals under very difficult conditions, the few hospitals that are still open, as they go out to tent cities to try to treat people, they're kind of feeling this malnutrition, this lack of food, and they're having trouble continuing themselves. We spoke to Dr. Suleiman Al-Derby, who is one of the doctors out on the front lines.
We feel exhausted and tired during operations because we have to stand for long hours. We feel fatigue, exhaustion, severe anxiety, all because of malnutrition. After my shift, I go to the displacement camps. I examine people's injuries. I clean the wounds, give intramuscular injections, measure blood pressure. We have no energy left.
I mean, a few of us, what you've brought to us this morning, Sasha, a few of us can imagine this. It does sound like there's not a lot of hope left in Gaza right now.
Absolutely true, Marcy. This is very difficult to imagine, and people are not seeing the light at the end of the tunnel. But every once in a while, there's this little glimmer, and you see people kind of figure out something that could make their lives a little easier. And we're hearing about a few small gardens that have sprung up in the devastated north of Gaza, improvised greenhouses, really, that have popped up amidst the rubble, the patches of rubble that are everywhere. Lena Malhadoun is one of the people involved in the community project. It's all about growing food, giving it to families, and also giving them the seeds from vegetables, from this produce, in order to grow themselves. This is what she had to say about it.
We had to find a solution and not wait until the borders would open. The need for food was urgent, so we came up with the idea of planting. That was better than waiting. We want to tell the world and the occupiers, we're not leaving here. This is our land. We plant it and we will stay here.
So it's a kind of statement, but it is also obviously a staple, something that they can give out as food and actually help people. But, this famine, this crisis is on such a massive scale right now, Marcy, that it's not going to be solved easily. And in fact, aid workers are saying that even once the fighting stops, even once that aid starts rolling in, the impacts of malnutrition will be with these people really for the rest of their lives.
Thank you for the report today.
My pleasure. Thank you.
That is the CBC's Sasha Petrusek. 8:22 is the time right now, and if you're thinking about the fall clothes for back to school next week, you might want to keep the shorts on hand. It's sure going to be hot today with Humidex 33 in Winnipeg, and Brandon with your humidity, it's going to feel like 35, and in Thompson with the Humidex, it's going to feel like 35. Well, here we are. It's that time of year heading into the Labor Day long weekend, and right now, many Manitoba teachers have already been into their classrooms. They're busy preparing for next first week back. From planning curriculum to organizing classroom supplies, so there's a lot to do. Now here in Winnipeg, teacher Madly Friesen has spent much of their prep time cleaning up. Madly's still new to the world of teaching. This year will be their first teaching performance arts year at Faraday School, an elementary school in the city's North End. Now that means for them, prep includes sifting through items that have been left behind by generations of other teachers that came before. Madly says it's been an eye-opening look into the past, but also into the future of creative education and what it can be in this city. And Madly is in. How are you feeling about school starting?
I'm really excited. It's so exciting as a new teacher to be able to get into a classroom that is going to be yours. It's not just for a year. You're getting to start building your program, and you're starting from square one, taking stock of what is there, what can I do, and how can I prepare for the learners that are coming into my classroom that I don't know yet? Yeah,
it's. I love that you're talking about the expressing the excitement of teachers, and you were sharing with me off mic. You were sort of temporary. This is yours now. Not only one classroom. I think you've got two spaces.
I've got two spaces. At Faraday School, there is a dedicated music room as well as a studio, which is fully mirrored, has a sprung dance floor. So great for very open space for moving, for drama, for dance.
I want a dance floor in the studio.
Yeah.
What are you finding? This is so cool. What have you been finding as you've been preparing your spaces from other teachers in the past?
So many things I've found. I have a whole closet full of costumes. I found all kinds of obscure instruments that I never would have thought would be found in a classroom. I found an auto harp that I had tuned and repaired. So I don't know who thought to buy an auto harp, but I think most excitingly, I found going through the music room 12 animal hide frame drums and mallets. These were, you can definitely tell, we have a school kukum, and we were looking at these drums together and finding out, she said, these are real animal hides, real tree. So these were probably crafted with the school or for the school. And now that we know that we have them, we can use them and engage them and care for them.
Where did you find them? Like, was this sort of in a drawer in the back of a closet or in a corner? Like, where were these things?
These things were stored safely away in a cabinet. But now that I know that they're there, right? Because I don't know what they were doing before, but now that I know that they're there, I've arranged for them to be mounted safely on the wall so that they can be seen as well as cared for and used.
You also found some child-size ribbon skirts, I think?
Yeah, there's a big emphasis. I've been at Faraday just a couple times when the students have been there. And I know last year in May, they have a culture celebration day where they honor and celebrate the cultures of the students in the school. So they have ribbon skirts for students. Again, that's our school, Kukum, plays a huge role in making those and sharing the joy of those ribbon skirts with the kids. So there's so many things that I've found throughout going through both classrooms that are very, very exciting and very, very much show the ways that this school prioritizes like student identity and sense of belonging and community and learning.
I want to make sure that I'm ignorant here. So auto harp, is it actually an automatic harp?
No, it's
See?
like
I'm strumming. People are watching me. It's not. What is it?
It's like it is kind of like a very mini harp thing.
Okay.
It's just got a bunch of strings on it, and it's the reason I had it tuned up and fixed was because it allows you to play chords like on a guitar or ukulele, but with a simple touch of a button. And I thought that would be a great accessibility tool.
Yeah.
For anybody who needed that.
Yeah. Our director also is a musician. So May's saying, think of flat guitar, Marcy. So, help me out my ear here. And marimbas. You found child-sized marimbas.
Yeah, I have a child-sized marimba as well as many, many ORF instruments. I know ORF is a really common practice where there's a lot of play involved in xylophones and recorders, but we also have a marimba, which is like a giant xylophone with like more resonant.
You're using the word artifacts for these. I was going to ask why, but you explained, going through with the kukum with the drums, but is there another reason that you like to use that word?
Yeah, I think it just came up for me as I'm like going through, as I was taking everything out to see what there is. You're finding not only these instruments, you're also finding like collections of paper resources that past teachers have done with their students. And I'm going through and I'm looking at these and kind of, the reason I call them artifacts is they're really representing a whole, many, many different teachers' philosophies of education and what education has been, arts education has been in the province. And you can kind of see that. You can see through the remnants of what they've left, and they thought this is important to leave for the next teacher. What they thought was really important to communicate through the arts, like what is the arts education all about? And as I'm going through these resources, I'm kind of seeing this is what somebody thought was important.
So what's outdated about that? And we're not outing teachers, the past, but I mean things change always. And how do you describe what you want your learners and your new students to think and feel about arts education in 2025?
Yeah, and I think there's lots of stuff that I'm keeping. There's lots of stuff that I'm moving forward with from these other teachers and seeing, oh, yes, and like this is how we have continuity, right? We can keep moving through as I'm carrying this forward. I think for me, I hope to move into this new school and really focus on not centering these artifacts like, okay, students, now we're all going to really, really be very proficient at this one thing. We're going to focus on the mastery of this one thing. I'm really hoping to start with bigger ideas of creativity and play and student identity and create a sense of community and belonging in the arts.
Thank you so much for coming in, and really good luck at school next week, and enjoy every minute of it, and congrats on your new full position.
Thanks.
I love capturing some of that excitement and spirit, right? All the learning to come. Madly Friesen, performance arts teacher at Faraday School. Marjorie Dowhouse has popped in with us now to talk about the Call-In on Noon today. Hi, Marge.
Well, hi, Marcy. I heard you talking about birds, the chimney swift. Yeah, our regular bird calls call-in is taking place today. So if you have any questions about birds, maybe you've spotted spotted a chimney swift out there, give us a call after Radio Noon. Coming up, our call-in conversation at 12:30, Marcy.
All right. Thanks very much, Mark.
Thanks, Marcy.
That chimney swift conversation was just very cool this morning. In case you missed it, you can find it later on our CBC Listen app. And remember, call in about birds, all your questions at this time of year between 12:30 and 1, as Marge said. If you want to leave a message now, if you can't make it to the live portion between over your lunch hour, you can always call their listener line, 788-3797. I like to remind you. Right now, it's time for your CBC Winnipeg News.
This is CBC News. Good morning. I'm Heather Wells in Winnipeg. At 8:30, it's 17 degrees. Beautiful sunshine out there this morning. We will see some clouds roll in, and hot for this last Friday of August. A high today of 29, humidex 33. Some people in Charleswood were shocked to see hundreds of trees cleared from a Roblin Boulevard property. It used to be home to the Assiniboine Valley Railway, a popular model train and Christmas lights display. But Paul Taylor, son of the former owners, says the heavily wooded property has become a target for repeated break-ins and thefts. So he's decided to demolish the house and clear the trees.
Even if the houses are gone, it just makes it's still a nice hiding place. So it's private property. We pay oodles of insurance on it now. The things that are lurking in the woods, they just have to be exposed.
The city ordered work to stop on Wednesday because Taylor didn't have a permit. He has now applied for one and expects the tree clearing to continue. A Winnipeg lawyer says police were smart to obtain a warrant to search inside an encampment. Officers used the warrant to search a temporary shelter in a camp near Waterfront Drive Wednesday. They seized bicycles and bike parts from what police describe as a chop shop. Police say they did not search anywhere else in the camp and no one was evicted. Chris Gamby at the Criminal Defense Lawyers Association of Manitoba says it shows police respect people who are in the encampment.
In this case, they're enforcing the criminal law. That's a different vibe than anything else with respect of what is happening with the encampment and whether or not someone has a right to be on that property or what have you.
2 men are charged with possessing property obtained by crime. Gamby says obtaining that search warrant may help the charges stick in court. Manitoba's Minister of Municipal Affairs says the province is reviewing a new report by the province's Auditor General. That report says the government needs to keep a more watchful eye on rural municipalities. Glenn Simard says his department will review the report to see what safeguards can be put in place.
We also recognize that local governments, like municipalities, are mature local governments, and they're responsible for managing their decision-making, and that includes financial management.
The Auditor General's report looked into a number of issues, including a cyber attack on the arm of Westlake Gladstone, leading to cash withdrawals of nearly $500,000. The report recommends all RMs implement cybersecurity protocols. Statistics Canada says the economy contracted in the second quarter. The latest GDP numbers are out this morning, showing a drop-off of 0.4% over April, May, and June. That follows a slight first quarter increase of 0.5%. StatsCan says the slump is due primarily to a drop in exports caused by the Trump tariffs. Providence University College is celebrating 100 years over 3 days next weekend. The private Christian post-secondary institution first opened in 1925 as the Winnipeg Bible Training School. It now has campuses in Otterburn and in Winnipeg. Provost Nicholas Greco says while Providence maintains its Christian origins, students of all faiths or no faith are earning degrees there.
It's not about necessarily believing in Jesus Christ, but rather doing the kinds of things that Jesus would have taught us to do. And so that's kind of what we want students to leave this place with. Some of those ethics, ways to serve others in the world, and to be good citizens that contribute to their communities.
Greco says about 1,500 students studied at Providence last year. It currently grants degrees in a variety of programs, including divinity, business, and aviation. A 3-day centennial celebration kicks off next Friday, a week from today, September 5th. Well, it was one of the worst and deadliest natural disasters to ever hit the U.S.
It's unbelievable how many homes are just underwater.
20 years ago today, Hurricane Katrina slammed into the U.S. Gulf Coast as a Category 5 hurricane. And while most of New Orleans has recovered today, less affluent parts of the city have not.
There are houses that still have not been rebuilt. You got schools that never opened that have been destroyed because of Katrina.
In all, Hurricane Katrina was responsible for 1,833 fatalities 20 years ago. You can hear more news throughout the day right here on CBC Radio 1, and you can find the latest Manitoba news at cbc.ca/Manitoba.
Thank you, my friend.
Thank you. Have a great long weekend.
All right, thank you. Heather will be here Monday with another crew doing a live show. I will be off. I'll talk to you Tuesday, but let's give some thanks here to our news department all week long. Alana Cole, Heather Wells, Megan Ketchison, Joni Nicolo, and Aaron Broman. Also on our live team this morning, May McKillop, Abby Adiyemi, and Azika Abdelatif. Our associate producers in unit that work on all of our programs all week long, in and out, and actually through the weekend. Our associate producers are Abby, as well as Corey Funk, Kelkadan Mulugeta, Sierra Sanders, Chidi Akuma, Marshall Hodgins, Dylan Longhurst, Issa Kixon, Jenna Bedosso, Sid Sundance Horshig, May McKillop, Carmen Ponto, Chloe Friesen, and Josh Tyfair. Our current affairs reporter in unit is Jim Agapito. Our community reporter in unit is Shanley Vidal. Hosts in unit, Nadia Kidwai, Marjorie Dowhouse, Bruce Layden, and Faith Fundal. YouTube producers, Azika, as mentioned, and Brad Lillies. Nellie Gonzalez is the show producer of the current affairs unit and the shows, but Robin Sommerfeld has been filling in this week, and Leif Larson is the senior producer of audio at CBC Manitoba. Thank you, everyone, for all of your work. And Abby, take it away with weather traffic.
Sunny and hot conditions coming your way. Temperatures will get close to 30 degrees in most of the regions today. Up north, we're going to see Churchill stay at 12 degrees. Every other region will get to 30. Winnipeg, 17 right now, heading to a high of 29. Beautiful sunny weather continues into the Labor Day long weekend, my friend. So enjoy the warmth.
Are you off Monday?
I am going to be off on Monday.
All right.
Some beach time.
Yeah, I don't know what I'm going to do on Monday. Maybe some golf time. I don't think it's going to improve my game now. It's too late in the season.
You better go swing, sister.
All right, whatever you're doing, if you have a long weekend, enjoy it. If you don't, then thank you for whatever workplace you're holding down. Take care, be well, and remember, there is a live information radio here on CBC on Labor Day. We hope you tune in. The Current's next.
The minister and I have just come